Winning the prize of the digital revolution. The availability of the IMG establishment technologies had set before us a make-or-break point. Either full grey governments would continue their arrogation of the constitutional laws, or we would mature in our understanding of the law with Sal's encoded medallions and the separation of constitutional and grey governments. Either the capitalist unlimited economic extremes would continue to ride roughshod over the real economic foundation of the world's nations, or we would formally give rise to the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses and bequeath the good life to all in all nations, rich and less rich, with HOME DAO integrity. Now, if mankind would have passed through this digital revolution without advancing its civilization to one divide, elevated and cooperative security advanced heights, and rather preserved the powers that were in their fully grey bloated forms and from Martian heights and with all the gates of the capitalist excesses kept intact, then what a wasted opportunity it would have been. Before humanity would pretend itself out of existence, or walked millions more to death by climate-wrought crop failure and floods and by tyrant and artificial debt, we transgressed against the stupidity of the capitalist extremist, fully grey governed world, and gave rise to intel-modernized governance. The intelligence, of course, is what we make AI to safeguard in the HOME DAO integrity and the vast occupational gates of freedom. The home pyramid embedded Sal's encoded medallions are the prize of the digital revolution. This is the turnkey democracy by which we formally limit capitalism and release our nations from the death grip from Martian heights. The all-in medallions capitalist LTD party establishes two orders of constitutionally interested governance and sets at an appropriate distance what remains of grey government besides. The sum of 3G head and home medallions, operative in the economy, build up the three and national class ruling structure and the capitalist LTD economy. Applying the prize of the digital revolution, the city opens constitutionally interested governance in an FML fire to see through to keep everyone accountable, whether in a risky or non-risky occupation, to the three GDPX level economic fields. Every head and home medallion bank card wielding man in the daily act of earning, spending and transacting at once gives power to one divide governance and elevates the national security forces to cooperative security heights. The high constitution technologies deliver the historic luxury and modern necessity of drawing the one divide between the capitalist LTD suite that lives and the old, no longer necessary evils that die a permanent death. Two governing defences of constitutional law from the FML fires and the National Defence Forces at Cooperative Security Heights are executive powers that defend the three and national class rule in all COC national directions. Constitutional life given the IMG in the FML fires results in a sustainable capitalist LTD economy. This results from the decision to rise above the non-governance of the foundation money law with the pre-intelligence state currencies and the malgovernance of the control of who can spend with the banker's digital currency. Upgrading the money system to Intel-friendly digital currency, we give democratic favour to the 7 gates and 3 fields of occupational freedom. From each City of Light's FML fire extends a pillar with first constitutional competence, all on the same capitalist LTD economic page, to the cooperative security centres that constitutionally interested governance from these true centres drains the world of the needless toxin of full grey lawmaking. The outrageously morbid and stupefying political crises of the previous era are dissolved. The sum of all home medallions is the capitalist LTD party. No longer divided against one another nationally and internationally by the red or blue, left or right, and us versus them associations, everyone on Earth essentially belongs to 2 orders of 3 sovereigns defending and defended national security. The triple 3 capitalist LTD economy reigns because everyone is solid with a 3G head and/or HOME medallion to the two governing defenses of constitutional law. Simultaneously, the ministries, agencies, and departments of the grey governments have their particular and constitutionally adjacent duties. From FML fire-scored and constitutionally developed cities, we gain the lens to the constitutional laws, thoroughly and democratically establishing intel-modernized governance into the economic digital zone, is maintaining of an earthen range of inequality and ends the Martian Heights episode. With it, we achieve good constitutional government in vertical international parallel of the foundation money law, a law that would otherwise have been covered with the laws fully grey. When constitutionally interested governance, and its best feature being its universality, the vertical international parallel is, by the intelligent and the pro-democratic, programmed to discriminate through the one divide against no human being, and only against the 5 occupational evils. So then shall we have won the prize of the digital revolution. Then we shall have removed the plastic grey vertebrae holding up the heads engaged in class war and competitive international military madness. We shall have brought into the upper class that savagely idiotic Martian Heights class. We will have achieved 2 perspectives, the subjective and grey zone of interpretation, experience and thought, and the universal 3 and national class ruling structure upon the one divide. If the world's nations are to elevate above the raw, warring money foundation, and so to preserve for centuries and millennia and 10,000 times that, then we must live with the sum of every individual's sovereignty to 2 freedoms, plus every COC nation's sovereignty from the FML fires and Cooperative Security Heights. Upgrading the money system with HOME medallions, we collectively intervened with the digital intelligence revolution to no longer remain dependent on the full grey agenda. The one divide elevating technologies finally drained the unbearable and unsustainable economic evils to the swamp of the 5 excesses. The once dominant fascistic ties between big business and full grey governments through reaching Martian heights of inequality were broken. All business, risky and non-risky, was made accountable to the first constitutional governance. If the Martian Heights ruler's grasp had tightened on the digital fortune, so the 3-class ruling structure would have been prevented and constitutionally interested governance would have been denied. Military lions would have continued to grow morbid in musculature, usurping the digital weaponry to gouge one another and devour military lambs. Genocide by cultural genocide, all the while peripheral surveillance paralysed and scrubbed us of critical thought. The old centre that had not aged well, having become ruined with fascism, was the single capital city with its primitive chim sponsoring full greyness in law. The single capital city centre was the heart and mind of the military lion that could only equate patriotism with aggression, in the name of defense and a profit motive and international securitization of money structure control in the stead of national security. Only when intelligence, that semi-conscious machine, here dubbed the AI king that is our highest technological development, becomes harnessed by true democratic and pan-COC nation-respecting forces, can we inspire our respective national defense forces to cross the bomb to Cooperative Security Heights and cut the jugular veins of the military lions. Digital technology is available to each COC national people as apex Western technology to enable us democratically to give birth to a capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy. That is exactly the competitive games on the fields protected from the Cooperative Security Heights, as it should be. If democracy, and not the Martian Heights tyranny, is to win the prize of the digital revolution, the competitive spirit and capacity of all individuals can be respected, and the Cooperative Security competitive games relation of the Olympic Games and sporting events can be emulated. Every COC nation is acknowledged, respected and included by and in the Cooperative Security Forces in order that all COC nations can achieve 3 sovereigns' success. National security is achieved on the operation of the first order of constitutional governance from the city centre that protects the three and national class ruling structure and gives life via the taxways, capways and highways to the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses, and by the second order of constitutional governing cooperative security forces who are unwavering in their engagement of the equality of national security mission. Seizing the prize of the digital revolution, money is transformed to become the gates and letters of freedom, while the constitutional and grey governments open in operative adjacency. The digital revolution culminates with constitutionally interested governance in the city centres and in the cooperative security centres that protect the relations of the freestanding home denominations of wealth. Home bank medallions enable us all to have economic freedom and to be agents of the constitutional good. Everyone in the FML fire-scored cities and towns is endowed with a first freedom to earn money and build home wealth, and to find a place in the three and national class ruling structure, whether within or without the capitalist LTD realm. Seizing the prize of the digital revolution, the constitutionally interested governor of the digital plateau has the power to sustain economic freedom, with competition on the fields of the greater cities, farms and towns, and through the East Paradise Corporation, and cooperation at the Cooperative Security Heights. The application of the high constitution technologies differentiates what was undifferentiated. With competition on the fields of economic play and cooperation at the level of security, the model of the Olympic Games and sporting events is realized. The Intel-friendly digital currency permanently replaces the mono-denomination of wealth money in order that constitutional health can be built on linking the four freestanding home denominations of wealth. The upgrade in the money system to constitutionally interested foundation money law governance permanently ends the threat of central bank digital currency, and thus the ability of a non-democratic state to force conformity upon all of us with their fully man-made laws. Since the inception of digital technology, much has been given form, including smartphones, computer games, biometric surveillance cameras, social media platforms, self-driving cars, data storage devices, and language model AI. However, none of those technologies have delivered anything in the way of a constitutional blessing. Conversely, much of the digital technology set in place in the era of full grey government dependence lends itself to turnkey totalitarianism. The true magic is in getting a home medallion from the digital ethers in time into the hands of the nationals all around the world. It is in advancing the phenomena of the internet from serving a society with absolute economic anonymity and peripheral security surveillance into a constitutional plane known as the One Divide, to keep everyone accountable to a sustainable and non-violent capitalist LTD economy. While everything on the World Wide Web was yet upon a raw money foundation and its periphery, the potential of digital currency to become a force of constitutional good is realized as we build the highways, taxways and capways, an era above that raw money foundation. While previously there was naught but cutthroat competition in a capitalist unlimited economy, now from FML fire-scored cities and towns, the intelligence-modernized governor crowns the digital plateau to give systemic support to the institutions and occupations fit for a capitalist LTD economy and to protect the two freedoms, foundational and dualic, of every woman and man. Setting our obsessions with the 100 gadgets that have surfaced from the kilns of the digital revolution into perspective, it is time to capture the prize in the SALS encoded medallions that can score the cities with the FML fires. Smartly now we set our thoughts and freedoms within a structure of constitutional health, as we set grey government adjacent to the constitutional. From here, in vertical international parallel, in a world no longer opaque with full grey national governments, we rule in favour of the people with the good governing vision into the architectures of the digital plateau. Building the taxways, capways and highways, therein the digital landscape shall cleanse us of the excesses and enable us to earn and build wealth and enjoy the myriad good in the world's nations. As the FML fires open in the city and town centre, everyone is held accountable to the three fields, three and national classes, and three competitive intensities. As the National Defence Forces apply the equality of national security mission through the Cooperative Security Centres, every COC nation is held accountable to the three sovereigns standard. Full grey governments recede to the extent that the first and second constitutional centres push open. What was profit-driven, competitive international military madness improves to profit-accompanying cooperative militarism. What was a vain response to destructive energies improves on aligning all home bank cards to oil and nuclear plus energies. An edge is given inequality as the cities settle with H1 to 24 tier appraised, three-class rule calibrating homes. COC nations gain sovereignty to generate the superior GCC and IFDC monies in the circles of life on continental high. These new monies have edges that accord with the constitutional laws and end the clandestine practices of the commercial and central banks. No longer are there extreme amounts of electronic and paper monies created out of thin air. In building up the FML governing institutions, so liberty, freedom, national sovereignty with the digital revolution are not wasted. Each FML fire is a rendezvous of the three sovereigns' constitutional victory. From the FML fire-scored cities, we mature out of the full grey government artifices that warped the nations into absolute opposition and difference. These constitutional centres realise the same triple-3 capitalist LTD economy everywhere. The gates to grey and constitutional government and the capitalist LTD economy are lettered freedom and are open. The gates to the capitalist excesses and tyranny are closed. The capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy is born as each youth on occupational maturity receives the DPX seared medallion from the light of the COC stars on continental high. Everyone has a happy beginning in the IMG era in every COC national city and town to find a place, earning and building the four denominations of wealth within the three competitive intensities, lower, middle, higher, three classes, lower, middle, upper, and three occupational fields, East Paradise Corporation, Greater City, 2nd DOC Armed Forces, according to their own competitive spirit and capacity. Intel-friendly digital currency links with each of the other three freestanding denominations of wealth. Contrary to the old mono-denomination of wealth money that built no structure of constitutional health, and made possible only grey governance, in the IMG era, each can find a place earning money and building H1 plus, E1 plus home wealth within the earthen range of inequality, while effortlessly and simultaneously being a first constitutional force to secure the three and national class structure. As such, upgrading the money system, we piece together the digital plateau and elevate the structure of competition. Piece by piece, the IMG establishment elevates the one divide, building the three and national class ruling structure with the novel architectures. Gaining our necessary role in national security on becoming accountable to city central first constitutional governance, we prevail victorious in a world organized in two governing defenses of constitutional health. Every COC nation gives and receives equality of national security from the three cooperative security centres because the FML fires build the trust of the national defence forces to cooperate. The greater cities settle into a three-class ruling structure by virtue of the H1 to 24 tier appraised homes. Each greater city bank card, known for its systemic national security utility as a medallion, is encoded with a four-faceted pyramid whose base is a one-divide level squared circle of the home denominations of wealth. No individual is given the raw money treatment. Every nation is alive with constitutional governance in its FML fires. None are reduced to the status of a concubine for a smaller territorial size. The price of wallowing in a world of nations with raw money and 100% grey laws is that we lose the prize of the digital revolution to tyranny. becometh of it the inferior forms of central bank digital currency, AI smart police, and strong AI military robots. The FML fires above and the tombs of fear below are set in permanent juxtaposition, and so ever shall the historic luxury and modern necessity of high constitution technologies of the one divide be known for the full grey government arrogation and mono-denomination of wealth money gridlock that went before. Ever through the genre of full grey government science fiction shall we be free to see what would have been if liberty had been lost, if tyranny had from Martian heights gained the supreme power. Given the golden opportunity to implant the one divide sky, opening Apex West technologies into the city and town centres, and to surgically end racism and end the arms race on a global scale, on elevating our respective national security forces to Cooperative Security Heights, and that all crossing from the landscape of occupational death to the Freedom Range of Mountains receive a 3G head and/or home medallion, it is with patent absurdity that anyone, whether in government office or not, should remain a stooge for the perpetuation of absolute economic privacy. The absolute grey difference between nations and the stupendous levels of Martian heights greed. That said, no person by the lights of the house of the IMG era shall ever be regarded as evil. Government, we are well to recognise, is only as good as its tools. By mono-denomination of wealth money do we make a rapid departure from civilization, from our humanity, and from Earth. By the architectures that enable us all to be accountable to the first constitutional government, to either minimal or maximal degrees of privacy, do we globalize the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy and constitutional health. In the pre-intelligence state world, each nation is kept by the others, with gates to the head of death maximally open. Each is a frenzy of arms and dark brain racing. While arms racing is familiar enough to the members of the cult of individuality without national responsibility, the dark brain refers to the 5 unadvanceables, each evincing in its own menacing way the wasted state intelligence of the pre-intelligence state nation. Top secret enhanced virus creation, robots of strong AI, autonomously killing army robots, and nuclear weapons. Completing the arsenal of New World idiocy is the standardless independence illusion, each 100% man-made law-making government aligned with a dark brain and building its own doomsday advancing spears. With Darwinian primitiveness, the big nations swallow the small and drag the continents of dark cities through the wildest west, with military lions rampaging towards extinction. The dark brain is the gangster mindset, the Samson option. If we go down, you're all going down with us. From Martian heights they attempt to prevent critical thought. With peripheral surveillance they would paralyze man in a still Martian heights sun. Dragging one another towards one or another irredeemable catastrophe, we travel, though we do not see well in the full grey government's haze, towards a Martian heights-ruled global tyranny. It is out of this raw money foundational world that the one divide is elevated. From mono-denomination of wealth moneyed gridlock to home DAO integrity doth the good patriot make. The declaration of COC national independence with constitutional and grey governance in adjacency and from full grey government is transitional as the structure of constitutional health is built and ongoing as each youth on occupational maturity receives a home medallion. Every single place on Earth must, in vertical international parallel, upgrade the money system in order to declare independence from full grey government and create a capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy going forward. Hong Kong, Suzhou, Rio, and Seattle become cities of light that give gate to freedom and that give pillar to Cooperative Security Heights, that we don't need full grey government policy. This declaration of independence from full grey government can only be made in vertical international parallel, Each people need to make this declaration because only when the constitutional and the grey everywhere emerge in adjacency and we cooperate in security shall we no longer have a primitive fear of one another. Because the three nationally endemic constitutional laws are real, we need constitutional and grey government the world round. Because the full grey governments keep themselves at hubristic heights, the time for citizens to see as patriots through the FML fires is now. As patriots of COC nations, we must point to FML fires with SAL's encoded medallions and Cooperative Security Heights to show that solidarity to constitutional order is more powerful than 100% man-made law and chim. Looking with all of humanity through the FML fire, each taking of a HOME medallion is a declaration of COC national independence. Unevolved with governments fully grey, negligent of the three nationally endemic constitutional laws, their nails are hammered into a coffin, a military lion-guarded digital cage to close on our collective liberty. Before the Martian Heights rulers evolve with digital tyranny, we have a window to build up the one divide in democracy's favour, and so to preempt them. In the ephemera of the digital revolution, global citizen action can suss the era's full colours to build up the one divide, and so bring the Martian Heights oligarchs into the three and national class ruling structure. Just as there was only one industrial revolution that stormed the world, and only one wave of homesteaders to open the farms through the once heavily wooded North American continent, there shall be only one chance to temper our dependence on full grey government. We will arrive infantile and inept to a world of Martian Heights tyranny, or with constitutionally interested governance in the FML fires of our cities of lights. Evolving in time with constitutionally interested governance, we rather bury the old form of money, make impossible central bank digital currency, and entomb the capitalist unlimited excesses. Evolving in time with constitutionally interested governance, we rather build the structure of an earthen range of inequality, and force the transformation of the capitalist unlimited excesses to the phoenixes and tigers. Once we were privy to the potential of first constitutional governance via the digital architectures, we saw that the mono-denomination of wealth money was the loci of each nation's first corruption. The E of death may have been the issuer of the plague money, though the reason it permeated the civilization-faltering nations of the old era was the absence of the perspective of FML fire-centered intelligence. Winning the digital revolution. Constitutionally interested governance is empty of self-interest. Self-interest in governance was synonymous with its own rising class interests, and always in a camouflage of national interest. Corrupted by the anti-democratic head corporation's government, mutated beyond any constitutionality as such. Inebriated by the profits of Cold War and bellicose across the gross, lone capital pulpits, they maintained their relevance and sanctity, and themselves and the arms race. Inebriated in the global vineyards of profits, regardless of the cost to the concubinized and bombed nations, the eyes and ears of the Martian rulers saw through champagne-coloured glasses in their selection of things. Sober and on point, the FML fire's seedling has been nursed to full constitutional bloom. The great lotus flower radiation has spread to all continents of Earth. The people came to open the city centre. Sovereign individuals of every COC nation emerge on ROC to choose among the gates of freedom. The national security forces for all times cross the bomb with FML fire's ubiquitous rise. On many a horizon at night are humongous stars and planets amid the globalized FML fire twilight. Difficult though it was for the Martian Heights rulers to improve and indeed perfect the deep state with digital intelligence in each city center, the 3G head medallions dangled in their eyes, and they took this 3 generations prize as the highest medal of honor in their respective nations' history. The 3G head medallions have been proffered and received at the top of the top heaviest of countries. Now the world's nations have, with freedom, enduring won. Everyone is in the three and national class rule, and the class war has ended. Everyone is upon the freedom range of mountains, as our reasoning has intended. From cooperative security and one divide elevated heights, the two orders of national security co-travel in perpetuity with the order of two freedoms to break the 100 years cycle of revolution to ruthlessness and back. And so, on reception of a home medallion, the UME on ROC shall celebrate with a first freedom salute, with it a torch held high to all nation-loving patriots past for giving gate and gate only to freedom. Looking with the world's nations through the FML fires and from Cooperative Security Heights, the no longer necessary and not so great game of geopolitics and war is over. In vertical international parallel, the cities of light form constellations, each as a centre of constitutional gravity, to take the lions and lambs out of the respective national militaries, in the way that science took the constellations of astrology out of the stars. It takes all of us to see the point of home medallions and to heal the world's nations with three and national class ruling structures and cooperative security heights. Constitutionally interested governance is thrust into being to update the constitutions of the world's nations, establishing the domains of constitutional and grey law, finally deflating the old era's full grey bubble of lawmaking dominion. Being exactly the constitutionally correct activity of artificial intelligence, intel-modernized governance is a trio of discriminating eyes to keep the constitutionally fit occupations in economic play, and to preserve the order of two freedoms per love capita and a sustainable and competitive capitalist LTD economy. The first constitutional governor in the city central FML fire, variously referred to as intel-modernized governance and acclaimed as the AI king, is securitization of the three and national class rule for freedoms of the people. The very historic luxury and modern necessity of the intel-modernization of governance is its emptiness of self-interest and its capacity with constitutional interest. The three nationally endemic constitutional laws are universal, and it is the function of intel-modernized governance to protect the chosen gates and letters in the foundation money law in order to formally limit capitalism, and so there shall never again be governments theocratic or fully grey. The constitutionally interested and not self-interested function of the IMG establishment and the power of his FML governing competence in vertical international parallel to elevate the respective national troops to cooperative security heights make it a historic luxury, modern necessity, and the institution of universal value. Constitutionally interested governance alone can realize the three sovereigns' success in and across the COC nations. Governance comes from the three sovereigns' constitutional interest in the FML fire. Respected is the three and national class ruling structure, and the cooperative security heights in and from all COC nations. As everyone is kept accountable to an occupational discipline of freedom, there's no seat of government that can take the old fascist bribes. There is nothing in terms of self-interest at the city centre, rather everyone's self-interest to be first freedom, free to earn and build a foundation, and second freedom, free to partake in any, all, or none of the jewels of life, is protected from the first constitutional centre. There is no arrogation of the nationally endemic constitutional laws from the grey governments and businesses contained to the capitalist LTD realm. Upon the one divide and within capitalist LTD economic skies, H24 tier per year and money earnings to the skies as the limits. It's no longer the real politic to fill the nation to its ceiling and border with grey laws. Constitutional interest is in the securitization of everyone's self-interest to a first freedom to earn and build a foundation within an economy that avails each the opportunity to do so. intel-modernized governance operates to protect the gates and letters of freedom that comprise the foundation money law bandwidth and an earthly range of inequality. Emptiness of self-interest in governance, specifically foundation money law and capitalist governance now, is the way to secure the necessary denomination of wealth relations. From the home to income-tuned-in money relation surges the three-class structural light. Cap and taxways cut to the arms and AI manufacturers who can profit when upon and consistent with national defense at Cooperative Security Heights. To the chagrin of every human cog of a unilateral military machine, once liberating wealth from many a nation into an empire, their bank accounts have been scotched and transferred to 3G head medallions. Having gained trust in the FML fires being bricked and the digital plateau being pieced together, the national troops of many a nation have crossed the bomb, bridge of medallions, constitutionally interested governance, the arbiter of all electronic money transactions, ends competition between national security forces. The best of each COC nation and all good patriots in the cities, farms and paradises are solid with the FML fire. The former elevate to Cooperative Security Heights. Empty of self-interest, first constitutional governance from every city centre aligns our medallion bank cards to Cooperative Security Heights, and denies the morbid form of the institution and business bent by the would-be full grey governments into competitive international military madness. As the first law governed with constitutional interest has the force to direct all payments of the respective military budgets to Cooperative Security Heights, so the barbaric incentives in a catastrophic arms race are removed. As the Cooperative Security Heights are a decompetitive military zone, Korean and Kashmiri troops cross the bomb to protect the one divide across East and South Asia. The work from within the FML fires goes on efficiently and quietly. Trafficking is dead. The corridors of oil to full grey government fascism are closed. Zero is the sum of women and girls trafficked to the little Virgin Isles and into the alleys of even the least rich of Indian cities. With superior institutional and business replacements in operation, the 5 capitalist excesses are dead and barely remembered. Because FML fires are the institution of universal worth, to be deployed in favour of foundational freedom in all nations, there are no more waves of ISIS militants rising from the no longer enduring operations of lion on lamb freedom. In FML fires with medallions bestow 21 highways, 9 canals, row on row. That freedom marks our place to the IMG's eyes, the capital of love beauties bravely pacing, evils denied, unheard beneath the one divide below. We are the Hume 18 years ago. We grew, felt love, saw FML fires glow. Born and again on ROC we stand, above death's tomb. We've won this quarrel against the 5, to you in full grey states we throw, the torch home medallions to hold high. If ye cannot talk for tyrants who lie, we shall not cease, for courage grows in fires linked. Travelling forward with electronic currency feeds to our respective national security forces enables the crossing of a nation over the bomb to Cooperative Security Heights. The money at last is upgraded in the direction of the forces that everywhere defend the 2 orders of freedom and the capitalist LTD economy as the sovereign individual's interest. The gates, the letters, the one divide, 3-class rule, foundational efficiency, and Cooperative Security Heights arrive as a flash flood from the end of an ice age. Corruption is massively eroded from the 1,000 languages of the nations of man. Each thinker and speaker knows the new contours of the capitalist LTD economy that have formed within. Hail the end of tyranny and fascism. Hail the arrival of the culture of respect for 3 and national class rule. Fewer and fewer are swayed to continue to give material support in the old money that gives gate to the capitalist unlimited excesses that must die. The constitutionally correct place and function of Apex West digital intelligence is known by taking a cognitive leap into the FML fire. As if government as an institution that is so dogmatically self-interested should be respected and not corrected. Thus, with the Inter-COC Moving Summit's cooperative core, make sure to label those who claim that full grey, 100% man-made law to be legitimate, whether by censorship of thought or overtly, as the still victims. The power of the human being to project light and to evolve into being concrete things of great utility is our undying trait. From within an FML fire, draped with the colours of national pageantry, see the double blue one-divide skies brightening the west, and see that the moon is stark above the east's peak in the great freedom mountain chains. As such, with light, we evolve into being constitutionally interested governance and build a capitalist Ltd Olympic spirit-infused economy, an era above the unnecessary landscapes of full grey international hell. Label those decreasing numbers of national and business leaders who would continue to make the false claim that full grey, 100% man-made laws are legitimate as still victims. The digital revolution's prize of constitutionally interested governance in the city and town centre is within each nation's grasp. Upgrade the money system to Intel-friendly digital currency to cast into the swamp of the five excesses the once necessary evils. The disorders of the two freedoms, the imbalances west and east, and every brand of constitutionally lawless money. The operative adjacency of constitutional and grey government. The institutions and architectures of the Apex West tech in the digital plateau give gate to freedom, the constitutionally fit occupations, all home medallion bank cards, gated to these letters of freedom, each with consistency non-evil, are able to transact IFDC money and build home wealth. With the suite of necessarily capitalist Ltd institutions and businesses given life in favour of the occupations of death, first constitutional governance is in control of the first endemic law. The IMD establishment paves the double blue one divide foundation, setting cities in relation to the eastbound paradises, and these in triptych with skies non-capitalist go a long way to securing the second endemic law. Honoured is each individual and family with the choice to seek livelihoods to the east or in the two fields west. The homes are appraised to tier to settle the earthen range of inequality and the three-class rule. With competent governance and securitization of the third endemic law, all women and men from Hume are endowed as equals with the order of the two freedoms. The constitutionally correct order of the two freedoms is established with the jewels of life, including the imperial jewels of heaven and paradise, an echelon above the home wealth interlinked foundation. Life is upon the three unbreakable fields of the nation. The full grey governments aged poorly with the rise of digital technology. Their persistent presiding with 100% man-made law and the indiscriminately gated mono-denomination of wealth money proliferated with chaos. In the old era, everything tended to be cut from relation and into isolation as a source of profit. With full grey government, the state of no formal governance of the foundation money law, and thereby informal support for anything with absolute economic privacy, the evils, highlighted by the competitive international military madness, were kept as necessities. Self-interested governance kept the criminal and anti-constitutional economic gates through the old money open. The IMG establishment systemically eliminates the five occupational evils, inspiring the evolution of a capitalist Ltd economy. In every COC nation's interest, the home denominations of wealth are linked, and the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses are selected for as taxway and capway destinations. COC national sovereignty is achieved with the COC stars that seed with the superior currencies of the three sovereigns' success. It is the edge-cutting IMG establishment that delivers us from the era of the evils kept necessary by the full grey government difference between nations and into a better world of COC nations a cut above with a capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy that features economic competition from west to east and military cooperation an order above. Whereas the full grey governments worked long and hard to divide and conquer people, subjecting nationals and foreigners alike to heavy burdens and extreme cruelty, the emergence of the two orders of constitutional governance sets the relations of constitutional health in every COC nation the world round. 2 freedoms per love capita are inalienably endowed. The one divide builds above the raw money foundation, discriminating once and for all to end the 5 heinous forms of profit. Intel-modernized governance from the city central FML fires and the National Defense Forces serve patriotically at Cooperative Security Heights to unite each constitution-owning cultural nation with 3 fields of economic freedom. First, constitutional governance builds the economic channels to the cooperative security centres and the trust in FML governing competence for the National Defence Forces to make the momentous crossing. The 3-class and national class ruling structure across the 3 economic fields and the order of 2 freedoms health per love capita to earn money and build home wealth therein are part of the IMG-era nation's constitutional health that is built. Thus, it is with a capitalist LTD economy settled with a universal structure that a zone of politics can be unmade. As the 2 orders of constitutional governance emerge in vertical international parallel, the size of the grey government reduction is noticeable, and there's politicking only in the grey government ministries, agencies, and departments. Globalization in the IMG era looks like the 100,000 FML fire-scored cities of light. Dragons, killer whales, and lions are the FML fire's ubiquitous eyes that protect the capitalist LTD economy and act to swarm and subdue the foundational evils. The 3 and national class ruling structure is built, and the national security organizes into 2 orders by the gravity of accountability to the intel-modernized governor in each city central FML fire. The Apex West technologies in the city centre, as well as in the shops and the bank cards, open the one divide skies to keep the economic competition in the cities, towns and farms to the occupations of freedom, and to elevate the National Defense Forces to Cooperative Security Heights. Capitalist businesses pierce through the one divide skies of cities, gaining substantial holds on the open markets across nations. Unity is in the following relations created on the emergence of COC national sovereignty in the inter-COC stars, and on the individual sovereignty to possess a SALS-encoded medallion. Occupational freedom and IFDC money, home ownership and income-tude in IFDC money, the digital plateau and the eastbound Paradise Corporation, the first and second freedoms, foundational and dualic per love capita, the cooperative security competitive games dynamic that works in vertical international parallel between the cities of light and the cooperative security centres, the operative adjacency of constitutional and grey government. The relations of 2 orders of constitutional governance defeat separation. Number 1. O to M. Occupational freedom to IFDC money. The occupational freedom to money relation is exactly first constitutional governance set to serve the national interest for a capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy that works for everyone, upper class down to the lower, in the East Paradise Corporation to the two fields of the West, and of all medallioned women and men in the competitive cities, farms and paradises, to the national security forces at Cooperative Heights. Verifying the constitutional fitness of all who transact across the occupation to money links, intel-modernized governance of the foundation money law secures the capitalist LTD economy. Leaving the raw money behind, Intel-friendly electronic currency is the upgrade, the foundation money law governable form that is a force of constitutional good. We become accountable to an occupational letter via the architectural code in our medallion bank cards in order to protect a capitalist LTD economy and support our national defense forces to attain the Cooperative Security Heights. Accountability to an occupational discipline keeps all within the constitutionally fit range of occupations that are gated in FML fire and lettered in medallion with freedom. Foundation money law governance is the capacity that each COC national people activate to give shape to the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy. The suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses, known as the Quartet of Phoenixes and Tigers, are given life within the digisphere, while the 5 excessive occupations called the Black Death, none any longer necessary, are systemically discriminated against. The military phoenixes rise from each bomb-crossing nation into Cooperative Security Heights. The military lions are removed as astrological constellations were from the stars. Every foundation money law center builds up the one divide and so elevates the militaries to the Cooperative Security Heights. The balance of constitutionally interested governance and grey government, with all nations opening in as many cities of light, dispenses with the once necessary evil of competing militarily. The tiger takes all home first denomination of wealth habitat. Homes are kept in relation to the yearly tabulated outcomes inside the occupation to money links, with year-end earnings in tiers awarded now according to the individual's income tude. So no longer is housing kept artificially scarce for the mono-denomination of wealth money gridlock. The energy phoenix rises from the ashes of destructive energies. The gates within the one divide are kept to secure oil and nuclear plus energies in balance, improving upon destructive energies thus. The COC nations of cities many and few gain sovereignty. Blue tigers appear with the COC national star. The FMAD creator banks are devolved by the austerity given with IMG at the helm in a capitalist LTD economy. Trafficking ends. As everyone is accountable to the FML fires, we systemically remove the incentive to profit from the trafficking of human children, drugs, and all else that is contraband. The O to M interdenomination of wealth link builds the capitalist LTD one divided economy and unites government vision to the FML. No longer is government blind and catatonic to the foundation money law, and so no longer does government arrogate the concept of law with 100% man-made laws. We owe it to one another to be accountable via the architectures within our 3G head and home medallion bank cards to the intel-modernized governor in order that every individual, now and in the future, grows up to be endowed with 2 freedoms within an earthen range of inequality in a constitutionally developed nation. We owe it to one another to prevent tyranny from weaponizing digital currency against free speech to its own end. We owe it to one another to be accountable to the city central FML fire in order to open occupational freedom and end death, and to build the bridges of medallions to Cooperative Security Heights. Number 2. M to E. IFDC Money and the Eastbound Paradise Corporation. The M to E interdenomination of wealth link enables the unfledged paradises to incorporate as wilds, backlands, and the Paradise East roads. As an upgrade to the zero at the edge of the old mono-denomination of wealth money, the IMG establishment defines the Western polity and secures the eastbound Paradise Corporation as the economic complement to the western cities, farms, and second-order police and military forces. The eastbound Paradise corporate triptych, currencied in gold coins and opening the second-level jewels of life, is essential to the first and second freedoms to all peoples. In addition, the ecological and cultural health in and of a nation are fortified. The willing can have a viable livelihood in the East. The FML fires, IFDC money transaction bases, and medallion bank cards of and within the digital plateau give each city an edge, and in doing so, the eastbound Paradise Corporation comes to be with its own gold composite coins. Both sides, the West and the eastbound Paradise Corporation, have economic access to one another by virtue of the GDPX exchange banks. COC nationals who cross the international national bridge bring their talents to the East Paradise Foundation and to the Jewels of Life. The suchness of one COC nation travels thus to another. These bridges built make a mockery of the old, full grey government difference between two nations. Immigrants are eligible for the Chow, or bridge status, such that Somali Chow and Iraqi Chow, in Cosmo Canada for instance, have opportunity to bring and pass on their talents, skills and knowledge in the 9 capitalist adjacent markets and 3 jewels of life. Number 3. H to M. Earning money and building housing tiers. Setting the housing and money as interlinked, freestanding denominations of wealth builds the 3-class ruling structure as the universal structure of constitutional health into the cities and towns. Developers are salaried by the C1 taxes paid in proportion by H1 to 24 tier appraised homeowners to create and maintain the 3-class ruling demographic. Individuals and families are thus able to earn money and build home wealth within an earthen range of inequality. The income-tude of the individual and the family builds year by year to pay for the ownership of one or more of the H1 to 24 tier appraised homes. All have a demand for housing that is met as each individual has a first freedom to earn and build that wealth according to income-tude in the H1 to 24 tiers. Foundational freedom is formalized, and so everyone is first freedom free to earn money and build H1 plus home wealth within the 333 capitalist LTD economy, and no one will be subjected to raw money treatment, hyper-artificial debt, or artificial scarcity of housing. Artificial scarcity disappears as everyone is endowed the first freedom to find a place in the 3 and national class rule. Hyper-artificial debts disappear as housing is owned to 2 justifiable debts and is kept apart from the capitalist LTD realm, where is contained all speculation. Number 4. The Home Foundation and the Jewels of Life. Upgrading the money system with home medallion bank cards establishes the order of 2 freedoms. In the capitalist LTD economy, individuals are endowed with a first freedom to earn money and build home wealth within the earthen range of inequality, and the second freedom to partake in any, all, or none of the jewels of life secures the constitutionally correct order of the 2 freedoms. All solid with the one divide, with a SALS encoded medallion, economic and cultural freedom and responsibility to 2 orders of national security go together. The first freedom of the individual to find a place in the 3 and national class economy is secured as everyone is accountable via maximal and minimal privacy designations, as accord with the architectures in the home medallion bank card. The 0 at the edge of the mono-denomination of wealth money gridlock disappears on the old money's burial to an era under the one divide. Foundational security of mind comes with the first freedom per love capita, as there is a good life available in the East Paradise corporations, the cities, and in the national security forces. In all fields there are justifiable debts to own a home, and no longer hyper-artificial debts. Home wealth and the raw biological health are the two requisite layers of a foundationally secure mind. Two orders of constitutional law and the grey laws are resolved, secured, and governed. Religion is cleansed of its theocratic tendencies. In the world's nations upon the gold plateau are the traditions of heaven and paradise, all granted status as imperial jewels. The order of the two freedoms, foundation and life, thus preserves the separation of church and mosque, as these are imperial jewels, from the foundation money law and capitalist Ltd governing state. Every nation shall be protected from the inversion of the order of the two freedoms, that the traditions of heaven and paradise, love and the entertainments shall be kept as the second freedom, after the formalized first to a foundation. Number 5. First constitutional governance and the Cooperative Security Heights. The upgrade of the money system with home medallions and the scoring of the cities with FML fires builds the bridges of medallions from the national military bases to the cooperative security centres. The FML fires, crowns of the capital of love beauty, give patriotic favour with first constitutional law governing competence, and in this is a pillar thrusting upwards the three cooperative security centres. National Defence Forces cross the bridge of medallions from all directions into the three cooperative security centres to engage the three sovereigns' mission in all COC national directions. FML fires in vertical international parallel and the three sovereigns standard of COC national independence gives foreign policy a renewed direction. It isn't building nuclear weapons or strong AI army robots. It is in ensuring every COC national city and town has a constitutional centre and grey government besides. National interest harmonises at the Cooperative Security Heights to cease participation in competitive international military madness and to cooperate to protect the competitive economy. For the sovereignty of a nation comes from the evolution of its previously competitive military lion or lamb. The bridges of medallions, like so many tail feathers of the military phoenix, convey from FML fire to Cooperative Security Heights the each in all for each forces. The military lions were competitive in the face of other nations and incentivized by profit for the raw money foundation. The military phoenix, being the sum of COC national security forces at Cooperative Security Heights and the FML fires that elevate them, deploys in unison the Apex West technologies to all nations to open with FML fires. Unity looks like the FML fires opened in all cities and towns, and the Cooperative Security Heights stretching across the continents of the world to keep these flames of the Olympic spirit-infused economy alive. The Olympic spirit is the best of us. There is at once competition and cooperation between nations. Following the model of the Olympic Games and professional sports, the economic competition is on the field and the security is cooperative. On one divide elevated national ground, there is no bastion for competitive international military madness. Chim. Artificial intelligence in the first constitutional governing capacity governs the highways, taxways and capways in the top layer of the one divide to ensure the arms manufacturers and national security forces are involved only at Cooperative Security Heights. Two orders of constitutionally interested governance strong, each COC nation can defend itself against internal, would-be fascist enemies, namely the four capitalist unlimited excesses known as the head of death. Having seized the prize of the digital revolution in constitutionally interested governance, the COC national sovereignty chimes into the two orders of governance, with troops and arms crossing the bomb to the cooperative security centres. True patriotism supports the two orders of constitutionally interested governance from FML Fire and Cooperative Security Centre. Old patriotism fought a losing battle in the arms and dark brain race between the military lions. In a global village of COC nations, the way of eliminating foundational evil is in looking within, city of light by city of light, in vertical international parallel, to keep the economic roads open to capitalist LTD economic freedom, and to govern out the faux Wild Western freedom in the 5 capitalist unlimited excesses. Now, in the IMG era time of FML fires of universal and inter-COC national value, for one nation to look to another in judgment is the old, primitive, and wrong relation. A nation can look to other nations and judge them only when it is among them in a cooperative security role. The instantiation of constitutional consciousness into each city's constitutional centre is civilization's light bulb to set our nations an era above the old raw money foundation, and with cooperative security centres at the top layer of the double blue one divide. As such, one nation no longer defames the leader of another nation as an enemy that must be destroyed, as Saddam Hussein by London and Washington, or the Dalai Lama by Beijing. True constitutional centralization results from the resolution of the first constitutional law and a massive withdrawal of full grey lawmaking governments. As Americans, British, and the Han Chinese gain the same first freedom to earn and build wealth and occupy a place in the capitalist LTD economy, and as each COC nation makes contributions in the purr of other COC nations, there is a respect for the 3 and national class rule across the nations, and so no longer is patriotism conflated with colonization. As each people govern through the same FML fires and defend from cooperative security heights, we are no longer misled to judge those of other COC nations on the horizon as evil. Nations are judged only by the each in all for each forces in the ICMS according to their 3 sovereigns' success or failure. A capitalist unlimited 100% man-made law-making nation is a constitutionally failed state, and a threat to capitalist LTD economics everywhere. Only from cooperative security heights are interventions on nations legitimately made, with Apex West technologies parachuted down and or deployed digitally and physically in order to build up the 3 GDPX playing fields and capitalist LTD economic inclusivity everywhere. It's the upgrade of the money system from mono-denomination of wealth money to the home pyramid-embedded medallion bank cards that solidifies the first constitutional executive in each city centre. In the interests of a civilized and non-violent capitalist LTD economic world, first constitutional governance of the foundation money law opens the economic gates of the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses. Because the first constitutional governance is systemic from each city and town centre, and because it is in vertical international parallel, it builds the trust and the physical bridges for the militaries to elevate to the second order of national security and to cross to the cooperative security centres. Every 3G head and home medallion is aligned to pay through the capways and taxways, city of light by city of light, in vertical international parallel, in order that the arms manufacturers and military personnel have the exclusive role of engaging in the equality of national security mission. The cooperative security heights opened aloft in the one divide skies are comprised of national defence forces and arms manufacturers who are paid on capitalist LTD contingency. Each city of light is thus a pillar of international constitutional strength. Each city's digital plateau is the one divide that is an era's distance above the old raw money foundation and relieves us of the primitive need to race in arms and the dark brain. First constitutional governance builds up the capitalist LTD economy following the 3 nationally endemic constitutional laws, elevating the national defence forces to the cooperative security heights in the process, and finally ends the primitive, immoral, dangerous and constitutionally incorrect monopoly over law held by the full grey governments. Cities of first constitutional governing light build the trust of competence in FML governance within the one divide, elevating the economy above the raw money foundation and inspiring the national defence forces to rise to cooperative security heights to keep the world safe for capitalist LTD economics. Individuals of once minoritified nations gain equal footing in the order of the two freedoms within the three and national class-ruled economy. Because the intel-modernized governance in the FML fires of her cities and towns are competent to elevate the one divide, the once minoritified nations are relieved of the charges of separatism. Equality of national security is gained from the Cooperative Security Heights. First constitutional governance in the city and town centre becomes the institution worthy of universal respect and protection, regardless of the overall territorial size or population of the COC nation. As the cooperative security forces are comprised of troops from all the COC nations of a continent and maintain the three sovereigns' mission to tend the flames of first constitutional governance at the city and town centre, so each COC nation is constitutionally the same size. If the militaries are not in every nation's interest, the arms and dark brain race continues, the Martian Heights inequality intensifies, and those who believed they were engaged in patriotic activity come to regret. Once the militaries are in an equality of national security mission, the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy is secured in all directions. Number 6. Constitutional and grey government. Those who work in finance ministries have no power to neutralize the COC nation of its GCC IFDC money-generating stars. They have no authority to retard the foundation of the nation once again with the mono-denomination of wealth money gridlock. Those who take office in the transportation departments cannot take down the taxways, capways and highways within the digital plateau. Neither can they close the FML fire's gates of freedom, nor can they open the vaults of the Black Death. Those who work in health agencies cannot undermine the foundational security of mind that is the first freedom endowment of each sovereign and two freedoms free individual. Such it is in the IMG era that the ministries, agencies and departments of grey government are in operative adjacency with the two orders of constitutional government. First constitutional governance is able to keep everyone true to the foundation money law due to the nexus of freedom and duty in the home medallion bank card. As all are accountable to the FML fire, so each FML fire is responsive to protect the three and national class ruling structure and the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses. Constitutionally interested government is our servant. Full grey government was our master. Set to the sides, grey government now has its domain, though none of the vote cast or laws passed can remove people from the 333 economic tracks. None can trespass upon the H1 to 24 tiers received at year's end according to salary ranking. None can trespass upon a COC nation's sovereign right to its cooperative security quota. Neither can any COC nation abscond from this duty to elevate a share of troops to Cooperative Security Heights, according to her territorial and population metrics. None now have to suffer being in debt for a Martian Heights priced home, or for being engulfed in the mad theatre of competitive international militarism. On the zone of politics unmade. The establishment of constitutional and grey government in operative adjacency. In the IMG era, every constitution-owning cultural nation governs and secures its three nationally endemic constitutional laws from the city and 3-point centres, having grey government ministries, agencies and departments besides. Those laws that are national endemic constitutional laws, NECLs, are other than those of the grey domain. Establishing the FML fires in the cities of the nations, we effectively distinguish between the law and the grey laws. The law refers to the foundation money law that, when governed in the one divide in favour of capitalist LTD economics and the Cooperative Security Heights, is the first order of national security. The foundation money law is nationally endemic, meaning among the people, and it is, as all peoples utilize money, a constitutional universal. Meanwhile, the grey laws are man-made, peripheral, and particular to a nation. Opening constitutional sight into the city centres, intel-modernized governance is on all the highways, taxways and capways to secure the capitalist LTD economy with all transactions within the three fields of the foundation money law. In the new era, cities open with FML-FIRE intel-modernized governing centres that, seen and controlled, is the foundation money law, and so established is the capitalist LTD realm, and viable is the Olympic spirit fine-tuning with HOME DAO integrity. The gold digital plateau settles, and the one divide elevates, setting every COC nation an era above the stupidity and arrogance of 100% man-made laws on a mono-denomination of wealth-moneyed foundation. First constitutional governance elevates all individuals to two freedoms, health, and the national militaries and police to the second order of national security. Our city-to-city capacity to govern the foundation money law creates the novel capitalist institutions and business forms and makes possible the securitization of the second and third endemic laws. To upgrade the money system to gold coins and Intel-friendly digital currency on accepting a 3 generations head and/or a home medallion bank card is to decide to govern and secure the nationally endemic constitutional laws. These nationally endemic constitutional laws are unchangeable and universal and in need of government attention, while the other domain of laws, the grey laws, are passed on drafting and deliberation. As the pre-intelligence state nation is ensnared in the neutrality of money illusion and standardless independence illusion, not knowing the FML-FIRE point, so full grey laws are all assumed a priori. 100% man-made and fully grey laws are valid only as long as we fail to observe the economic, national security and class reality with cities of light. The FML-FIRE perspective is the experience that enlightens man to the difference between the equally real constitutional and grey laws. The decision to heed to the invincible endemic constitutional laws that are among men and women in the world of nations due to our civilized presence isn't the same as a decision to pass a law particular to one's nation or province. The FML-FIREs pierced and demolished much of the full grey government dome of law. In a fit of brilliance, in the midst of a digital revolution, the peoples of the world launch a digital space shuttle through the freedom of thought opened skies, and arrived upon a one divide, elevated and constitutionally shielded planet known as Earth. The national security built of two orders of constitutionally interested governance in vertical international parallel is superior to national security with full grey governments. The madness ends when the FML-FIREs in City of Light by City of Light align in taxway and capway with the cooperative security centres to systemically advance the military phoenix and the equality of national security mission. The oil monopoly is finally broken when the intel-modernized governors in the FML-FIREs see that everyone is paying into an oil and nuclear plus energy balance. FML-FIREs burn through the self-interested full grey governments. Constitutionally interested governance in every City of Light centre builds up the one divide elevated foundation to give shape to and protect the capitalist LTD economy. And with the first and second orders of constitutional governance respectively, and consecutively welding evil's gates shut, and protecting the flame of the capitalist LTD economy, so the nation lives in full constitutional colour, next to the slivers of grey government. Intel-modernized governance is the on-off discriminatory power towards the categories of occupation that are respectively constitutionally fit and unfit. The gates of freedom and the three economic fields are constitutionally fit, and the competitive spirit and capacity of all is respected with the freestanding and interlinked HOME Denominations of Wealth. If not for the first constitutional competence in vertical international parallel, nations would remain dependent for national security on the single centres of full grey government, Rather than pillars elevating from FML fires to Cooperative Security Heights, the so-called National Defense Forces are abandoned into unnecessary military competition. Advancing the age, it is the first constitutional governance in every city centre that elevates each nation an era above the raw money foundation and an era above dependence on the full grey government military madness. While the greater cities and capitalist-adjacent paradises are suitably competitive, the National Defense Forces ascend to Cooperative Security Heights by the historic luxury and modern necessity of cities of light and first constitutional power. Contrasting the universal constitutional laws are all modes and concepts such as interpretation, deliberation and particularity, all the grey legalese within the rubric of the unsolved realm of law. This constitutional and grey structure of global constitutional health is echoed in the individual. The subjective interpretations, choice and determinations of the individual occur within the chosen occupations of freedom in the three fields. No nation has the need for the old, full grey government contingent evils. No individual has the right to relapse his nation into full grey government blight. It is time to leave the communist and neoliberal camps and the liberal and conservative wings, and to build constitutional health into our own and every nation, with first constitutional governance, a capitalist LTD economy, the militaries and police elevated to the second order, and the gates closed on the excesses. Our resolve to govern and secure the constitutional laws shall cut full grey government to size. Our collective sanity shall be realised on settling the cities with three-class rule and on elevating national security into a digital plateau, and by virtue of each FML fire, the militaries to Cooperative Security Heights. Grey government is necessary to deal with the matters that are particular at the federal, provincial and municipal jurisdictions of a COC nation. These particulars coexist with the constitutional. The Grey Police, for instance, continue to combat crime and protect private property as before, only now as they have first constitutional governing support, all 3G head and home medallions in, it is the HOME Denominations of Wealth that are property, and no longer that acquired through mono-denomination of wealth money that is protected. First constitutional governance from every city central FML fire and the respective national defense forces at three centres of Cooperative Security Heights obviates the dependence on full grey government and cancels the arms and dark brain race. Three sovereigns' success replaces and dispenses with the phenomena of absolute state sovereignty from lone capitals. Full grey governments in Moscow, Washington, Beijing, Delhi, Pyongyang are offensive to one another. It is in the absence of first constitutional governance in vertical international parallel that the advances in the economic extremes are necessary. A world of nations in an illusion of full grey government difference organizes into blocks of allies and enemies. FML fires cut through the psychosis of the absolute difference between nations. Cities of light throughout Russia, America, China, India, and Korea protect the universal three and national class ruling structure. Cities of light in vertical international parallel align the patriot to pay through the capways and taxways to arms manufacturers and national defense forces who receive payments only for contributing in the equality of national security mission in and in tandem with the cooperative security centers. Cities of light in vertical international parallel align the patriot to pay C1 taxes proportionate to his H1 to 24 housing properties to the COC national stars. The stars are loaded with money to pay through to developers to maintain the housing demographic in the three-class settled cities. Cities of light in vertical international parallel align the patriot to pay through taxways to the only institution of money creation. The COC national stars that generate the gold coins and Intel-friendly digital currencies of a value of 1 to 100 in international competitive balance, and so nowhere is mono-denomination of wealth money any longer created. Nowhere are the extreme free money and hyper-artificial debt-creating commercial and central banks in operation. Cities of light in vertical international parallel align the Patriot to pay through capways for energy to the oil and nuclear plus energy corporations. Intolerant of fascism, the links between the foundation money law-controlled highways, taxways and capways set the oil executives with a minimum privacy risky business designation. They are blocked from the once bribed and controlled full grey governments. Not willing to risk a climate catastrophe, constitutionally interested governance in each city's central FML fire sets the oil industries in the shadows of the nuclear plus industries. The head of death are inferior versions of forms that must exist. The full grey is to the inferior and evil forms as the two orders of constitutional government are to the superior versions. First constitutional governance opens in the city centres. The full grey governments are punctured by and yield to competence, and the forms that are constitutionally fit come into being. FML fires score with cities in order to stabilize ownership of houses and housing with justifiable debts, to secure each COC nation's sovereign success with GCC and IFDC money generation in competitive balance with other nations, from a star within the inter-COC stars, to stabilize the climate as much as possible with ON plus energies, to give patriotic support to one's national defense forces, to ascend to Cooperative Security Heights to end the arms and dark brain race. Abandoning the PIS money, the patent anti-constitutional and criminal evils cannot survive, for, lettered as death, they cannot transact in the digital plateau, and without other forms of money cannot transact without the plateau. 333 economic freedom blocks out not people per se, and only people who stubbornly and primitively cling to a capitalist, unlimited excessive form from which to attempt to profit. Capitalist LTD economics is realized when the institution of housing is calibrated to three-class rule, when the COC nations are sovereign to generate GCC IFDC 1 to 100 from a COC star, when the bridge of medallions is built to draw in cooperative security forces, and when oil is set in the shadow of nuclear plus energies. The emergence of the constitutionally fit forms requires first constitutional governance. While FML governing intel-modernized governance is the means, the superior money is paid to the capway and taxway destinations as ends. These ends include the quartet of phoenixes and tigers, including businesses, institutions, and the second-order national security forces. In the pre-intelligence states, the fully grey dictators and two-party systems, all ensnared with competitive international military madness, and the rest of the no longer necessary evils, were recipients of all taxes. Once the constitutional government and three nationally endemic constitutional laws are understood, and to the contingency of a world of full grey governments with the 5 capitalist excesses, so full grey government cannot continue to be the end point of taxes. In the IMG era, we pay, by virtue of the superior money systems, capways and taxways, towards the chosen capitalist LTD economic destinations as ends. The architectures of light are the means, constitutional interests are the ends to end the horribly malignant forms. The FML governing IMG establishment is each nation's city-by-city way to invite the new forms while disinviting the old. The superior IFDC money and the cap and taxways allow the select constitutionally fit forms, the 2 phoenixes and 2 tigers, to gain reality as these and not evil are fed as the capitalist LTD capway and taxway destinations. The House of the IMG era here evidences that fully grey government as the fully discretionary destination of taxes only deepens the constitutional malaise within and across nations. There's no end to the arms race and competitive international military madness until there's a bridge of medallions to the cooperative security centers. There's no balance of energies until the capways enable us to end the fascist bribes and to select for a balance of oil and nuclear plus energies. There's no settling of the cities with a three-class rule home demographic until the H denomination is bounced out of the new IFDC money. There's no end to extreme free money and hyper-artificial debt creator banking until the COC nations gain sovereignty to non-colonial legacy GCC IFDC monies. Two orders of constitutional interested governance reduce the size of full grey government. Upgrading our money system to Intel-friendly digital currency, the IMG-era COC nation gains its new constitutionally correct and grey dimensions in government. Everyone solid with the first constitutional foundation money law government pushes grey government off the constitutional domain and into its proper ministries, agencies and departments. All COC national peoples, whether previously regarding themselves and others as the mainstream and the minority groups, gain sovereignty to elevate a presence of troops to contribute to and receive the equality of national security protections. Some nations 9%, other nations 2%. At the Cooperative Security Heights, each COC nation has the liberty to turn inwards, knowing that all nations are three sovereigns constitutionally true. On the question of how big the government is in the IMG era, primarily we understand this in that it's constitutionally interested. Opening the constitutional centers of FML governance in vertical international parallel, cities of light systemically deliver death blows to the five excesses and support freedom. The orders and balances emerge with the capitalist LTD economic realm that is given shape. We have elected centrality in the two orders of constitutionally interested governance in the FML fires and cooperative security centers, and have sent what remains for politicians of the left and the right to deliberate on in the adjacent ministries, agencies, and departments. FML fires open the skies of the one divide and shunt the full grey governments to their properly reduced sizes in India, in Pakistan, and in the Kashmirs and Punjabs where, beyond the dividing and ruling British Empire, and those who kept the torch of supremacy taken from them, become redeemed as COC nations united across GDPX level playing fields, up and down the two orders of government and in the two freedoms per love capita. Grey governments are set at the edges of two orders of constitutional governance, smartly now in the ministries, agencies and departments. The roles of constitutional and grey governments in adjacency thus understood, the time has come for us all to become solid with true centralisation and for the full grey governments to wane to ministerial and departmental slivers. The House of the IMG era thus expresses the separation of constitutional and grey government. Mine the gold and leave behind the rocks. The mining of three sovereigns' executive gold from the landscape of full grey government reduces our dependence on politics and relieves our grey governments from having to labour blind to the foundation money law and without the institutions to build international trust. Of course, the executive functions won't be availed by the grey governments to whom government is about corruption, power over populations and individuals as well as wealth, and is never to be about evolving constitutionally fit forms and discriminating against anti-constitutional and criminal evils. On point, we the people must pivot to our respective city centres and set the Constitutional Intelligence Agency behind a curtain of FML flames. We must open a habitat and throne for intel-modernized governance to see through a double blue one divide. Grey government was once the better option to religion and theocracy, though modernity presses now into the city centre, grinding a new fault line with the old monolith's grey. The tremors of a heartquake calm round the globe, and the FML fires open as first constitutional gold. As the double blue constitutional strata settle, as new era of economic freedom normalizes. The three cooperative security centers have inroads built diamantine, and we long not to cast stones at one another again in a militarily mad scene. Constitutional and not grey government is fit to balance the westernized world with the eastbound and to humanize the Martian heights of inequality to an earthen range. We must will the end of the two extremist eras, the theocratic and the fully grey, when arrogated are our laws and mocked is our humanity. On developing the FML fires and the three cooperative security centers, the three sovereigns have their roles, and these executives we certify and commission as competent and cooperative to operate separate and adjacent to the government's grey. Indeed, the development of two governing defences of the constitutional laws settles with city-to-city and three-point centre-to-three-point centre universality the three sections constitution and reduces our reliance on politics and weapons undeep. A city scored with intel-modernized governing constitutional light is developed in government to secure the nationally endemic constitutional laws. Escaping the blight of full grey government, the light links the architectures of the foundation money law. The homes and the East Paradise corporations are as wings of constitutional health, while the old-style grey government is bounced to its proper ministerial dimensions. The state matures with the first constitutional executive power, opening the lifelines to the capitalist LTD suite and to preempt the economy of the five patently inferior capitalist excesses lettered as death. Empty of self-interest, the AI king in the house is programmed to become adept in supporting the triple three economy's home denominations of wealth, and to gainsay any efforts to profit of the old excesses. It is only when there is architectural light opened to give life to and protect the new arrangements that we can see things pretty much had to be the way they were before, for full grey governments could draw no one divide, and rather found their enemies on the horizon and internally in whoever challenged their self-interest. The opaque money was full grey government money. Rather than having the freestanding home denominations of wealth to build a three- and national class ruling structure, there was mono-denomination of wealth gridlock and no rules on wealth accumulation. The constitutional zone is the zone of politics unmade. On point, when we see with all humanity through the FML Fire's capitalist LTD gates, we see the potential of constitutionally interested governance to realize a universal structure of constitutional health. On point, thus, is seen the era of 100% man-made lawmaking in its full and outmoded greyness. Our home medallion's solidity with first constitutional governance buildeth the freedom range of mountains and the Cooperative Security Heights. The politics is resolved in the zone of the three nationally endemic constitutional laws, and what remains in a nation to be decided is in the other and grey domain of government. The two orders of constitutional governance that emerge in the city centres and in the cooperative security centres, as well as the structure of constitutional health they secure, are the zone of politics unmade. Because from FML Fires the order of two freedoms per love capita are protected, and from the cooperative security heights the three sovereigns' success is in every national direction guarded, what remains to be decided politically is grey and not constitutional. FML Fires are brought to constitutionally interested life, city of light by city of light, while the equality of national security missions from the three cooperative security centres are pan-partisan in favour of each nation's capitalist LTD economic freedom. The two orders of constitutional governance relieve each nation from depending on a grey government that has a totality of political concerns. The two orders of constitutional governance settle the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy. What political decisions remain are in the ministries, agencies and departments of the adjacent grey governments. On gaining the constitutional centres in the city centre and in the 3-point centres on Continental High, each nation is independent of the old necessity of full grey government. Sovereign with intelligence in the FML fires, sovereign as individuals with home medallions, and nationally sovereign from Cooperative Security Heights, we are no longer dependent on full grey government. Attaining what is constitutional, the good governance of the foundation money law, the order of 2 freedoms per love capita and the cooperative security centres, the pathway forwards for full grey government is into the ministries, agencies and departments that are all out of the way of the constitutional zone of governance. The essentially twofold function of constitutional governance is in the global securitization of the 3 and national class ruling structure with its gates and letters of capitalist LTD freedom, and in the freedom of the sovereign individual to earn money and build home wealth within that structure. First, constitutional governance removes the possibility of making money in the 5 old evils, competitive international military madness included, and together in the 1st, 2nd and 3rd point centres, we render old and outmoded any and all full grey government military designs. As there's certainly only an increase in governing competence once we are all solid and in support of the FML fires with our respective home medallions, the non-fascist capitalist LTD economy and the cooperative security centres built, there's a reduction in the size of grey government and not government in itself. As national security gains the power of a 1st and 2nd constitutional governing dynamic, so the arms and dark brain race in competitive international military madness is no more. And here, with the advance of national security to double blue one divide and cooperative security heights, the grey government has no role as the full grey government has been withdrawn. The sovereign full grey government orchestration of national security is bunk. It is 3 sovereigns' success that fulfills the national security mandate of the state, whilst endowing the individual with liberty foundationally and in life. As oil and nuclear plus energies are established as capoid destinations, so the full grey governments are withdrawn. While there's a necessary role for grey government in the respective national and provincial energy departments to play, there isn't any full grey government to take in the oil executive's policies and bribes. As cities settle with H1 to 24 tier hinged homes, every homeowner pays C1 taxes towards the maintenance of a 3-class ruling demographic. As homes are for ownership and no longer for sale, the Martian Heights inequality is gone. Intel-modernized governance of the first foundational law from the FML fires in vertical international parallel puts the 2 orders of national security and the 2 freedoms per love capita in a dynamic. Economic freedom is at once systemic governance of the one divide, and this constitutional governance secures the economic freedom. Economic freedom is also at once structural support for the militaries to cross to Cooperative Security Heights, whence the FML fires are everywhere protected. This dynamic is of universal constitutional worth and makes extinct grey government executive power in these arenas. While everyone is regarded as a sovereign individual, unique in his personhood, the 3-class and national class ruling structure is a constitutional universal to ensure everyone has a first freedom to earn and build a foundation according to his interests. As the 2 orders of constitutionally interested governance are pan-partisan in their support for all individuals, regardless of, nay, because of their colours and constitution-owning cultural nations too, on coming of occupational age, gain a home medallion and enter into a 3 and national class ruling structure that is of the zone of politics unmade. The very goodness of constitutionally interested governance is that it denecessitates the old and now primitive need to be competitive militarily and national security. The goodness of having FML fires as first constitutional hearths is that we evolve politically and economically to lower competitive international military madness into the tomb of fear, to develop the three and national class competitive cities, farms and east paradises on the one divide overground, and to elevate our national security forces across the bridges of medallions to the Cooperative Security Heights. With 3G head and home medallion bank cards easing the financial transition, the IFDC money talks and the head of death venom is blocked. The first order of constitutional governance is intelligence at work. Hail thus the arrival of the Intel King, for facilitateth he, the AI King, all good transactions across the highways, capways and taxways. Of freedom, we maintain first constitutional governance of the chosen gates and letters found and opened in the new money. With medallions forged in the city central FML fire light, we belong with foundational freedom, and in the jewels of life. The COC national capital of love beauty is the consort of the pair. Efficiency arrives at last in government. The salaries paid through the taxways to the experts, officials and officers involved in FML governance are at the helm of the ship of state. Safe harbour is found the individual two freedoms free in cities of light beneath the freedom mountains. To the adjacency of constitutional and grey government, for the spirit of liberty with two freedoms and three sovereigns is alive, it is easy for us to become accustomed. Lessened is the size of grey government in its ministries, agencies and departments, and distant a full era below, of the top-heavy communist and fascist full grey past, we remind ourselves through entertainments deep. The goodness of constitutionally interested governance from the city central FML fires is the entirety of its function. As it functions in vertical international parallel, so the competitive economic structure and the missions from Cooperative Security Heights reinforce one another. The badness of the old era was in the raw money foundational state, kept by the full grey governments in these nations, with nearly everything susceptible to money capture. There being no other denomination of wealth, the mono form of wealth could be stacked to Martian heights, and it is this that gives us hindsight on the capitalist, unlimited extremist era. Building the one divide an era above the old junglic economic fertility, a time when there were no barriers to the singular money, so we know the superior system and no longer believe an inferior system to be true. As we win the digital revolution, we look through the city central FML fires with all of humanity. True globalization is realized with accountability into as many FML fires as the world has cities and towns, to build everywhere a capitalist LTD economy, an earthen range of inequality and cooperative security heights. The demographics of the west to east fields differ up and down the latitudes because the topography, climate, and natural plenitude vary. True globalization has nations rich and less rich, and individuals likewise. Seeing with the global village into the gates and letters of an FML fire is the onset of the three sovereign standard, and the point of departure from the age of full grey government, whence was brokered competitive international military madness. Having seen with our fellow nationals and internationals through the FML fires, first constitutional governance is equated with patriotism. For the intel-modernization of governance in each city centre supports our respective national security forces in vertical international parallel to elevate to the Cooperative Security Heights. Police, too, gain reprieve from the stunningly corrupt full grey government administrations. The crime is down with the new 3 and national class ruling structure, and the immigration is slight, as every FML fire the world round has constitutional gravity. In the previous era, the point unseen, the citizen was politically impotent. Each nation was shot through from police to parlour and bank to barber with full greyness in law, And so, the citizen was naturalized to the neutrality of money illusion and the standardless independence illusion, and there was no language to express the arrogation of the nationally endemic constitutional laws that was afoot. Fear, war, terror, hatred, and top-heavy government everywhere were features of a world that agreed from Martian Heights for a lawless, FML ungoverned economy, and that offered only options of one brand or another of full grey government. In the IMG era, development involves constitutional development. Ultimately, it is our accountability to pro-democratic, intel-modernized governance that builds the three-section standard and resolves the capitalist LTD economic peace the world round. The accountability of the patriot with a home medallion to the FML fires builds the trust in first governing competence, because the nation finds its sovereignty fulfilled in the each, in all composition, and all for each mandate from on continental high. A capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy that works for everyone is something that neither of the capitalist unlimited extremist grey government parties, the so-called left and right, and certainly the autocratic regimes in those nations without elections, could ever achieve. And while it would tyrannize reason to suggest that there would be a final solution to end all politics, on the discovery of the three nationally endemic constitutional laws, there is a great winnowing of executive decision-making away from the zone of the grey that finally, on crossing the 778 divide to the IMG era, each nation has its constitutional government in a two-fold dynamic and grey governments in all jurisdictions besides. Indeed, it is the FML fire of each city of light that is operative as a force of constitutional good, and that is the institution of universal worth to be guarded by the cooperative security forces that sends thus to the hinterlands of government the formerly totalitarian grey. Harnessing the good governing potential of the digital revolution in each FML fire, the two orders of constitutionally interested governance per city of light and cooperative security centre ousts self-interest in national executive power. The veins of the capitalist LTD economy are the highways, taxways, and capways that give life to and receive life from the tigers and phoenixes and the two freedoms of each sovereign individual. First constitutional governance of the foundation money law is thus the systemic executive power that maintains the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy. The cooperative security forces have the executive power to engage in the equality of national security mission, to keep all COC nations accountable to the three sovereign standard and above the raw money foundation of old. In those nations that could at least vote, the propaganda of the two wings gave the people yet another vain hope to elect into power an individual who claimed to have integrity and who would abide by the constitution of the nation and to protect the rights of her citizens. Though, because the corporate lobbyists had wedded the head of death to the bodies of the politicians in political power, there was time and again a Martian Heights self-interested politician who was in the office of the single capital. Each privately hated leader of full grey government was but an ambassador of the mono-denomination of wealth money board gridlock. The walls of democracy with pre-modern money, the head of death, bored through to take the centres of power. Through borders of national sovereignty, the military lions rampaged to rake in more of the mono form of wealth. Though now constitutionally interested governance has given shape to the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy, constitutional interest fumigates the corridors of full grey government, and the ideological maggots of the head of death die. Flies no longer circulate between head of death interested heads of state. Clear-minded and sober, the capital of love beauty's pace axially in the inter-COC stars. Our potential is realized on point, looking with all of humanity through the FML fires. Having arrived at the perspective of intelligence and transformed from mono-denomination of wealth to the HOME denominations in accordance with the three constitutional laws, with intel we encode in the constitutional interest. From each city centre in VIP, we aim the eyes of first constitutional governance and tame our civilization of its needless corruption. In control with constitutional interest to keep an earthen range of inequality, the constitutional zone of governance gains legitimacy, and the rest is grey. The constitutional zone includes the taxways and capways that feed the national defence forces in the cooperative security centres, and so all military activity is at and from the Cooperative Security Heights. In this is achieved the international spirit of the Olympic Games and sporting events where the competition is all on the ice, the field and the ski slopes, and the security is cooperative. Our respective nations' grey government no longer has any business in national security, as they could only prolong the threats, intensify the danger, and maximise the suffering. With medallions, each nation brings a gift of constitutional light to the world to rise to cooperative security heights and out of a scene of competitive international military madness. The race in arms between the military lions ends as the new military phoenix from as many FML fires ascends. That the suite of capitalist LTD institutions and businesses replaces the capitalist unlimited excesses of death is universal. There is no grey government power to give gate to any letter of the head of death. The 5 occupational evils shall not replicate in corporate flesh. The era of absolute discretion of full grey governments is over. With Apex West technologies, we prevail to give economic life to the 2 phoenixes and 2 tigers, altogether known as the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses, and to end the full grey government contingent destructive energies, competitive international military madness, extreme free money and hyper-artificial debt creation, trafficking and Martian Heights-priced housing. First constitutional governance is enabling of the decisions to accord with the 3 nationally endemic constitutional laws, and to abort the old model of merely paying up taxes to a fully grey government as the only resort. The upgrade in the money system from mono-denomination of wealth money to IFDC money is necessary to formally limit capitalism. The FML Fires-centred digital plateau has built-in capways and taxways in order that the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses can replace the old and inferior head of death. The taxways and capways are thus all essential to demarcate the zone of politics to be unmade. The FML fire-scored city and town has H1 to 24 tier pyramids in the home medallions and on the lawns. The FML fire-scored city and town has gilded seamers in the Eastern Economic Complement and IFDC money in circulation for a 3 and national class ruled economy. The FML fire-scored city and town directs our energy payments, with grey government energy ministries having an impact due to the differences in latitudes, terrain and climates, to oil, smartly long-term now, and the nuclear plus energies. The FML fire-scored city and town is developed with a first order of national security in the first governing competence of the foundation money law, and a second order defence of the capitalist LTD economy from Cooperative Security Heights. The FML fire-scored city and town protects with equality the first freedom per love capita to compete in the 333 capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy, earning and building home wealth. There is a suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses to be given lifelines through these taxways and capways in VIP from every national city of light thus. Cities of Light and the Suite are suitable to each because each prepared from Cooperative Security Heights is so relieved of that ancient condition of needing a full grey government to be prepared for war. Regardless of the differences between nations, linguistic, topographical, rich and less rich, each is effectively the same size with a city and town centre, with a gold and digital plateau, and with 2 orders of constitutional defence. National sovereignty is visible with the inter-COC stars gleaming from on continental high. Cities of light have solved once mighty mysteries and dilemmas in the international night. Above the Freedom mountain range, the skies are quelled of the insane head of occupational death quartet. First constitutional governance in play in VIP, with IFDC in circulation, sets the home denominations of wealth in relation and paves the one divide boundary. The constitutionally correct placement of AI renders the once necessary evils known as the head of death passé, and gives life, rather, to the capitalist LTD phoenixes and tigers. As constitutional and grey governments separate, the ever-present gloom of full grey governments dissipates. The for tyranny and apocalypse wayward horses have gained new wings in the phoenixes and new power in the tigers. Those who previously benefited with the apocalypse driving horses, finally, with 3G head medallions, have a way, fully compensated, to rise upon the one divide and to give life to the new and vital capitalist LTD forms. The governments of the capital cities of nations, formerly fully grey, and in a losing battle in the scene of competitive internationally military madness, winnow in executive duty, the constitutionally competent and the cooperative taking over. Scoring all cities and towns with FML fires, so at last the full greyness of government is dissolved, the two orders of constitutional with grey government in adjacency takes operative hold. Cities and towns centred with first constitutional governance ensure that the 333 capitalist LTD economy and the two orders of government are COC national universals. As the three and national class structure is built across the nations, such that everyone is two freedoms free and every nation is defended with equality of national security, the full grey government difference in laws does not survive. On the upgrade of the money system from sheer numbers upon a raw money foundation to gold composite and 3G head and home bank card, transacting Intel-friendly digital currency such that it is all electronic banking in the West, the constitutional governance can open in the city centres and in the three cooperative national security centres. Grey governments are reduced in size, pushed over to matters of health, immigration, transportation and the like that remain for the nation, and in its nested jurisdictions to decide. We will have evolved our reality to a superior state when there are none who can break the first and second governing orders of national security, the West-East balance and the two freedoms per love capita. It is with modern necessity and historic luxury that the three nationally endemic constitutional laws come to be governed and secured by the two emergent and permanent constitutional governing defences. Politics remains in the ministries, agencies and departments of grey government, and there is a newfound respect for competence in the competition to take political and administrative office within such grey government domains as transportation, drug enforcement, healthcare and education. The two orders of constitutional governance govern and secure the three nationally endemic constitutional laws. In the IMG era, the three constitutional laws governed and secured on the linking of home DAO integrity are universally endemic, and so among every people the same, while the particulars of lawmaking belong to the domain of grey government. The nation that remains dependent on 100% man-made law is primitive, for as the gates and letters of economic transaction go on unmarked, so the foundation money law is ungoverned. Non-governance of the first constitutional law keeps the incentive in criminal activity, as it ensures the militaries remain racing in arms and fighting in a scene of competitive international madness. The evolved state has AI to govern the one divide, and relieves each population from the ever-enlarging, self-interested and full grey government. The gates and letters to the anti-constitutional occupations are closed by the very fact that the gates to the occupations of freedom are open. Constitutional and grey government separate, the former being comprised of three interoperative sovereigns that enact as two governing ordered defences of constitutional law. Endemic is a word built of the roots en, among, and demos, people. Endemic thus literally means belonging to a people or native. The foundation money law, the eastbound west balance, and the order of two freedoms per love capita are among all peoples, and as such are the constitutional and not grey laws. the constitutionally correct modes of government and law are at last found. The foundation money law, national constitutional balance eastbound and west, and two freedoms health per love capita are universals, and the grey laws are particulars. Once there's an adjacency of constitutional and grey government, the nations can be redeemed because the former serves the interests of the three and national class rule, and the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses. The FML fires in the city central, headquarters of constitutional governance, do not favour the capitalist unlimited excesses, as there's no self-interest wanting to profit from them. The intel-modernized governor is as such invincible to fascism. The capitalist LTD economy, Cooperative Security Heights, a constitutionally fit balance of energies, and the three and national class rule are guarded with pure constitutional interest. Such 100% purity of man-made law by full grey governments now belongs with the theocratic laws in the never-to-resurface past. The universal constitutional institutions and architectures are built to empower each COC nation-state with the historic luxury and existential necessity of governing, and securing the three empirically verifiable, nationally endemic constitutional laws. 1. The foundation money law. 2. The East and West balance, and 3. Two freedoms health per love capita. These laws, the house of the IMG era concludes, exist due to the sheer presence of civilization. They are circumstantial to our existence. They are pure laws that cannot be diluted or polluted. They are inalterable, and they are ignored, co-opted, and malgoverned at our peril. Grey laws are circumstantial, prescriptive, and responsive, infinitely mutable in the eras previous to the state capacity to govern the nationally endemic constitutional laws. The grey laws are written and passed according to a nation's demographic and beliefs. All grey laws are malleable to corruption. In every nation, money is in circulation, and therefore there are gates and letters opened to the categories of the profitable livelihoods in and across the nations. The foundation money law is a law that is deeper than the grey laws, for despite there being criminal laws in place to deter trafficking, for instance, the gate and letter to trafficking is wide open, with a non-IFDC form of money in circulation. The individual can thus become a trafficker. It is upon us to realise first national security and the second and third NECLs on the good governance of the first foundation money law. All of these nationally endemic constitutional laws coexist with the man-made or grey laws. Two orders of first constitutional law government builds up the one divide that we are all locked in through the digisphere of taxways and capways to the national defence forces at cooperative security centres. The capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy replicates with economic competition on the GDPX-levelled playing fields and security working cooperatively to protect the venues of the good competition. Every COC nation avoids central bank digital currency, and so liberty survives. Every COC nation abandons the competitive international military madness, and so human beings survive. Every COC nation breaks the oil monopoly, and so the climate crisis is averted. Every COC national has a first freedom to earn and build home wealth within the three and national class ruling structure, and so constitutional health prevails to end the pandemic of foundational insecurity. Establishing pro-democratic control, smartly now, of the foundation money law, we all have a piece in the national security and in the home wealth of the capitalist LTD economy, wherein the sky is the limit for money earnings. Opening the digital plateau with every base, in shop and online, the intel-modernized governing establishment extends with Western formality to the GDPX exchange banks that guard, as a chasm between the two economic complements, the capitalist-adjacent eastbound Paradise Corporation. The time to settle along the lines of home DAO integrity has come. These lines are drawn to accord with the endemic constitutional laws and are not drawn impassioned of a political wing. The immense freedom mountain ranges settle in this capitalist LTD world is a tolerable and finally good amount of inequality. The occupational opportunities are vast. The fine-tunings make for foundational efficiency and amplify the first freedom. Empirically verified, the three nationally endemic constitutional laws are finally the existential criterion of human civilization, nation by nation, that, unless achieved, the Martian Heights tyranny shall globally cement itself. The fate of the world's nations is to be determined by who takes the digital revolution's prize. Pro-democratic man would affix the three- and national class ruling structure and Cooperative Security Heights. The Martian Heights tyrants, the top-heavy rulers with laws fully grey, would ruin the nations and make impossible the good life to the many. The three nationally endemic constitutional laws, NECLs, and grey laws of the IMG era compare favourably to the 100% man-made law presiding and decreeing full grey governments of the past era. Constitutional and grey governments are operative in adjacency in order that the three- and national class rule can be settled. The Earth's wilds gain standing within the East Paradise Corporation. The peoples of the COC nations are spared the Martian Heights rule built on mono-denomination of wealth money. There's nothing extreme about the three- and national class ruling structure, stabilized once constitutional interest succeeds self-interest in matters of national security and freedom. Intel-modernized governance serves the capitalist LTD economic good. Home medallions in our wallets, physical and digital, secure each woman and man's freedoms to a foundational opportunity and the jewels of life. Full grey government guaranteed competitive international military madness and class war. First constitutional governance in vertical international parallel gives rise to national security from one divide, elevated Cooperative Security Heights. No longer do we suffer one another's 100% laws of heaven and 100% man-made laws. In the city centres are scored the FML fires, the first constitutional agency of universal structural health. Fulfilling the point, the COC nation opens the FML fire in as many cities to control the range of occupational identity, pave the one divide, edge the West for the East, and elevate the militaries and police to second order of national security. The HOME Denominations of Wealth are edges of the capitalist LTD economy bestowed the constitutionally developed nation. Every COC nation is upon the one divide with as many FML fires as cities, and 2 stars for sovereign GCC and IFDC money generation on continental high. Gold coins and Intel-friendly digital coins are the currencies of choice in circulation. Some men earn to millions, others in the hundreds. However strong the currents of currencies, the three- and national class structure holds. We do not let the absolute economic privacy continue. The West and East banks keep us with SEMs, SALs encoded medallions, accountable. Home medallion wielding and IFDC money transacting, all from HOME, are solid with the one divide to keep the constitutional interest. Whereas previously we were dependent nation by nation on the laws of full grey governments and their police to enforce them, each nation-state now evolves City of Light by City of Light with Apex West technologies, that with Home Pyramid Solidarity all patriots are in, and the gold and digital plateau are everywhere intact. The one divide is a clear-cut boundary extending across the whole of each nation's Western economic fields. IFDC money is earned, spent, and transacted across the West Bank cards, aka home medallions, that are within the bank machines, aka in-shop and online bases. The first constitutional authority, aka intel-modernized governor, in each city and town centre verifies the interlocutors of each transaction to be within the range of constitutional fitness, and in doing so, maintains first national security of the capitalist LTD economy against any intrusion from the 5 old excesses. The highways, taxways, and capways within the active top layer of the one divide enable the constitutionally interested governors in the FML fires to ensure that all economic activity is within the capitalist LTD economy's competitive fields and at the Cooperative Security Heights, and that there is zero activity possible between the would-be traffickers of children or between full grey governments and the militaries in non-cooperative missions. First constitutional governance relieves every people from having to bow to the mouthpieces of the full grey governing difference between nations. Constitutional intelligence on a one-divide elevated platform of respect for the three nationally endemic constitutional laws shall win the presidency for life. With AI as first constitutional president, and with everyone invested with a home pyramid, we can depart from the hell of Martian Heights inequality, the parties with fascistic ties to the head of death, and to all elections of men within the unaltered capitalist unlimited economics and competitive international military madness. The sum of the three constitutional edges builds up the cooperative security centers wherefrom the national defense forces stay the course of the equality of security mission to protect the capitalist LTD economic competition in all COC national directions. Once constitutionally interested and not full grey government is at the helm of the ship of state, the first constitutional security of a nation becomes simultaneous with economic freedom and not at odds with it. Sal's encoded medallions transform the fully grey government electorate into a systemic force of first constitutional security, as the normal and effortless act of transacting IFDC money is at once maintaining of the one divide, and thus the capitalist LTD economy. The three constitutional edges are within every FML fire, and in the home pyramids embedding the home medallion bank cards. They are in the highways, capways, and taxways that link the West Bank's transaction machines, and that build up each city and town's one divide skies. As we are dispelled of the neutrality of money illusion, the taxways and capways are set for the suite of capitalist LTD institutions and businesses known as the phoenixes and tigers to rise up. There's no room for the 5 letters of occupational death in the COC national scene, once first constitutional government relieves grey government of its fullness. The House of the IMG era provides the digispheric blueprint for all COC nations to rise to the one divide. This constitutional boundary doesn't divide the nation between Martian Heights rulers and the working and lower classes. This one divide constitutional boundary sets constitutional and grey government in adjacency and unites us to rule over the capitalist extremes of death. The first constitutional law. The intel-modernized governing establishment's control of the foundation money law. The IMG establishment is the first constitutional defense that formally opens money's gates to the occupational disciplines lettered in freedom, and as well elevates the quartet of phoenixes and tigers as the necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses to replace the old capitalist unlimited economic excesses. Systemic discrimination against the old excesses establishes the trust for each COC nation's national defense forces to cross the bridge of medallions to the cooperative security centers, and thereby to deliver equality of national security in all COC national directions. Because the one divide, built with tax, cap, and highways linked to each constitutional development FML fire epicenter in vertical international parallel, contains a nation's electronic money, it can give shape to a respectable capitalist LTD economy. First constitutional governance within the one divide discriminates against the 5 capitalist excesses and relieves us in vertical international parallel of having to depend upon full grey governments for national security. The FML fire scored city is completed with the gates of capitalist LTD freedom, having Eastern economic complements and national security at Cooperative Security Heights above. In a world full of grey-governed nations ensnared in Chim, the occupational evils, the head of death, necessarily coexist with the occupational good. Once we are solid with the constitutionally interested governor, the AI king, in the FML fires in vertical international parallel, so we compel the head of death to evolve to the superior forms known as the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses. The head of death evolve into new occupational territories. These join the vast numbers of good occupations that carry over from the old era upon the one divide. The good occupations are the necessary and finally new normal. The IMG establishment is the city centre scoring intel-modernized governor, the in-shop and online bases and home medallions. interlinked and with intel-friendly digital currency as the sole currency of the West. This creates an historically luxurious foundation money law governing means to pave the one divide, systemically eliminate the 5 capitalist unlimited evils, balance the greater city West with the eastbound Paradise Corporation, pierce the cities with 9 markets beautiful, elevate the military and police forces to the second order of national defense, shape the capitalist LTD realm, secure oil in the shadow of big nuclear, interrelate the H to M, O to M, and M to E denominations of wealth, hinge with H1 to 24 tier-valued homes the 3-class competitive and triple competitive intense economy, and order the 2 freedoms health per love capita. All CFC nations build a home DAO integral, 3-class ruled and Olympic spirit-infused economy on the one divide, an era above the old pre-intelligence states' raw money-wrought capitalist unlimited economy. The sum of all home medallion bank cards and home pyramids is the first, second, and third nationally endemic constitutional governance and securitization that is enough to inspire the militaries and police to the second order of defense and to replace grey governance to its modern proportions. The second constitutional law, the national constitutional balance East and West. On the ground, every city the world round is westernizing with modern technologies and with first constitutional governance. Constitutional development is achieved as each digital plateau extends to a western edge, and the City of Light Central FML Fire elevates the national security forces to Cooperative Security Heights. National security and the East-West balance are matters of concern to the 2 orders of constitutionally interested government that realise them with foundational freedom, and these are no longer the matters of the full grey governments that would use them as a pretense to restrict and eliminate the people's freedoms. All COC nations westernise in the cities and farms and need the eastbound Paradise Corporation to balance the West. The unfledged paradises corporatise, and the West's money gains a 100-to-1 relation to the East's coinage. For capitalism and the Western economy are bound by the digital plateau. As the East Paradisaican wilds, Backlands and Paradise East Road are able to incorporate, providing a realm of gold composite currency, in complementary opposition to the DPX westernized cities, so we are halfway home to the national constitutional balance of East and West. The West industry trade rules and the ON plus energy balance complete the securitization of the second constitutional law. Due to the architectures within the top layer of the double blue one divide, there is no contradiction between private capital gains in oil and nuclear plus energy businesses and the need to keep the balance East and West to maintain climactic stability. Each COC nation's balance between the East and West is achieved principally by securing the eastbound Paradise Corporation in triptych, its wilds, backlands, and Paradise East roads, by virtue of the digital plateau that cuts an economic edge to the western cities and farms. The trees, oceans, and other carbon sinks must be sufficient and able to absorb the greenhouse gases our western economies release, so that the Earth's atmosphere will not tend in the direction of Venus's. Eastbound on an axis and in orbit, the Earth is on a veritable knife edge of habitability. Glacial, oceanic, climactic, coastal, ecological, and occupational stability and balance all depend on our respect for the national, constitutional balance East-West. Respect for the sacred balance is complete with the ON plus energy capways that allow for the oil industries to become formally capitalist LTD businesses in the shadow of the emergent nuclear plus energies. As we lock the A taxways to the eminent cooperative security forces, wherein each COC nation gains 2 orders of national security, so the 3 sovereigns' mission in all COC national directions is performed with vastly less quantities of oil. The nuclear plus energies can proliferate as peacetime energies through the capways. Nuclear plus are the select, constitutionally fit, lobbyist to official bribe-free sources of energy that come to count for the lion's share of the world's COC national energy needs. Hydrocarbon refiners are put on a diet. Further, the West industry trade rules are set in place to give the necessary protections to capitalist Ltd businesses and the wilds. There's necessarily a distinction between the two main sorts: COC national trade and the global trade. The West industry trade rules are formulated in the interests of preventing morbid obesity and emaciation industrially, and to favour now constitutional health and each COC nation's East-West balance. The third constitutional law: two freedoms health within a three and national class ruled economy. Finally, as the home pyramids within these Western bank cards can grow from a low of H1 to a height of H24, thus securing the three-class rule, two freedoms health per love capita to earn an H1 home and have a life thereupon, builds over and ends the old zero-sum game of mono-denomination of wealth moneyed capitalist unlimited economics. Intel-friendly digital currency updates us from techno-feudalism to three-class rule, removing the hyper-artificial debt middlemen from between men, women, and the three-class rule appraised homes. Intel-friendly digital currency settles each greater city with H1 to 24 tier-valued three-class ruling homes, and places no direct cap on the amount of money that can be made. The culture of respect for three and national class rule comes with a nuance in that it is always good and well, and with tacit legitimacy to speak of the lower, middle, and upper classes, as well as the national class Paradise East Road and cooperative military forces. The order of the two freedoms is endowed the individual can earn and build foundational wealth according to his or her own CSAC, competitive spirit and capacity, within a range of finite occupational gates and letters, all constitutionally fit, and within an earthly range of inequality, and can partake in any, all, or none of the jewels of life. The Rock of Hume, coupled with homes set in relation to money, secures the third constitutional law. All men and women can find a place according to their own competitive spirit and capacity in the three classes, three competitive intensities, and three economic fields. It is thus with respect for the competitive spirit and capacity of women and men, and to protect the dignity of each to work and live with foundational security of mind, that the greater cities are settled in a three-class structure by appraising houses and housing to H1 to 24 tiers of value. This superior reality depends upon every youth on occupational maturity executing the first freedom as a duty, formally receiving a home pyramid-embedded medallion in the process. Living in the past, the developed nation refers to the opening of housing to the highest bidder on the global market, with the prices of homes therefore skyrocketing out of the reach of the many. Arriving at constitutional health on taking full advantage of the golden opportunity of FML governance, the developed nation refers to the establishment of a three and national class ruling structure that settles each city and East Paradise Corporation as a dyad, an unbreakable structure that honours the freedom of every individual to earn and build the necessary foundational wealth according to his preferences. IMG-era freedom gatekeeping succeeds the full grey government head of death gatekeeping. The House of the IMG era is on point, perspective of intelligence, to elaborate the constitutional facts that are the bases of the declaration of COC national independence. With respect to the act of being so without having to be so, the 5 capitalist unlimited excesses of death are contingent on a world of fully grey-governed nations. First constitutional government keeps the gates open to 3 fields of capitalist LTD freedom. Full grey government keeps the gates open for the capitalist extremes of death. The forms of the occupations that exist depend on which era of government exists. Full grey government equals 100% man-made law, and the capitalist unlimited extremes of death. The link between full grey government, its FML ungovernable money, and the no longer necessary evils known as the head of death is causal. Full grey government sets the raw money foundational stage for the most morbid form of housing, with Martian Heights prices for the extreme free money and debt creator banking in favor of the Martian Heights rule, for the competitive international military madness, and for the destructive energies. The world will be mired in competitive international military madness as long as the nations keep the digital revolution to the periphery and remain full grey domes of so-called self-interest relative to one another. Two orders of constitutional governance and grey government in operative adjacency equals the capitalist LTD economy. Because constitutionally interested governance aligns our medallion bank cards to the superior destinations, each FML fire gives life to the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses. 3 generations head medallions recompense the owners of the head of death as they depart to join their respective patriots in the 3 and national class rule. The House of the IMG era thus expresses as constitutional fact that foundational evils are rooted in the old money form, and that they, singled out now and with the replacements poised, cannot survive the upgrade of the money system to IFDC and the realization of constitutional interest in governance. The era of monolithic money darkened and intensified with time. The economy reached morbid extremes both in the capitalist unlimited excesses and in the crime of trafficking. The man-made laws of mono-denomination of wealth money issuing full grey governments not only could not create constitutional health, but they stood in the way of it. The full grey governments buried their revenue-seeking tentacles into and became one with the head of death. Before the opening of constitutionally interested governance, there was incentive all across the one-class rule for Martian-priced homes. Extreme free money and debt creator banking, the arms and dark brain race, the lion-on-lion and lions-on-lamb competitive international military madness, and in destructive energies. Thus, the world of cities of light has learned that the presence of a fully grey government in any nation will lead to the capitalist unlimited extremes, because those governments and the head of death are incentivized and given to one another. In the capitalist unlimited economy, big businesses had already been in full control of government in the macro West, and vice versa in the authoritarian East. The nations are redeemed on gaining control of their endemic constitutions, on directing themselves at the true constitutional centres, and relieving themselves of full grey government. The corporate coup is cashed out and reversed. The opening of the first constitutional governments in the city and town centres, and the second-order cooperative security centres, puts an old-era face upon the full grey governments, and with 3G head and home medallions we can finally, in vertical international parallel, pick the old institutions apart. 2 orders of constitutional government by the interoperation of the 3 sovereigns, with the responsibility and freedom twinned in the patriots' 3G head and home medallions, nothing is left to be desired of the arms and dark brain race between finally exhausted military lions. The troops and arms manufacturers having defected to Cooperative Security Heights. All that necessarily remains undecided, open to debate and grey laws, is in the grey government ministries, agencies and departments. Corporate lobbyists can thus no longer write laws in conflict with the 3 sovereigns' constitutional health of a COC nation. The tyrants and puppet politicians can no longer point the way with a dark brain and an arms race forwards. Through the economic gates of freedom to the gold and digital plateau are laid no black carpets to connect the corporations and the full grey governments. The 3 and national class ruling structure prevails, and the morbid Martian Heights rule ends. Full grey governments that issue mono-denomination of wealth money set all individuals in an inefficient, hyper-artificial, debt-riddled raw money foundation. Full grey governments that gain control of central bank digital currency move the world further away from constitutional health. The freedoms of men to build wealth are lost. As such, governments can compel the citizens to conform on the threat of freezing their bank accounts. First constitutional governance in the FML fire is the point, because it is constitutionally interested and can therefore give shape to the capitalist LTD economy, as it elevates the national defence forces to Cooperative Security Heights. Conversely, central bank digital currency would defeat the potential of a digitized city economy to realize constitutional health. It is because of the focus on 100% man-made laws, and thus the absence of good governance of the foundation money law, that anything, all profitable crimes and anti-constitutional evils are potentiated. Due to the 100% man-made laws of each nation, and none overlapping with the other, each nation is still with a standardless independence illusion and ensnared unnecessarily in the competitive international military madness. On the one divide, the capitalist LTD economy's occupational gates open, we rise with two orders of constitutionally interested governance, non-racistly the same in each City of Light and Cooperative Security Centre, and do not push the full grey government's deepening crises onto yet another generation of youths. Erecting the pillars to Cooperative Security Heights from the FML fires, we are true patriots to secure true constitutional health, with home DAO integrity and the order of two freedoms granted each youth on occupational maturity. In hindsight, as the IMG establishment has enabled the rise of the necessarily capitalist LTD forms, known as the two phoenixes and two tigers, it was the lack of architecture in the old money that gave gate to the old occupational evils, lettered as death. However good the lives of individuals in those old occupations were, there is nothing of them to be desired in a world of nations, all with first foundational freedom in the omnipresent three and national class rule. The capitalist unlimited excesses ruined capitalism and retarded the nations. The raw money foundational gridlock whore-bored the chaos from the unlettered gates of the old money was, on point from the FML fire, the first corruption of the old era. It was in the absence of first constitutional governance that the law monopolizing full grey governments gave material support to and incentivized the competitive international military madness. The old pre-intelligence state money, being FML ungovernable, ensured the world would be captive to singular full grey government centres and the creep of fascism. At the turn of the IMG era, outdated and negated became the true constitution, arrogating 100% man-made laws of the purest grey administrations. As the FML fires are brought to life, there is clear and present city-central, systemic discrimination against competitive international military madness and the rest of the capitalist unlimited excesses. Previously unable to see the difference between the constitutional laws and the grey, we assumed we were condemned as human beings and doomed. Our impotence as citizens was then matched by the willful constitutional incompetence of full grey governments. Incompetence was the state that kept the capitalist excesses and evils as necessities. Full grey governments of 100% man-made laws are blockheaded with respect to constitutional law. The cities of full grey government are without a soul, in the sense that each is blind to the foundation money law. A City of Light has a high constitutional citadel that unifies us and sets the equality of two freedoms per love capita, and an earthen range of inequality between the rich and less rich without contradiction. FML fires open one divide skies with light and see through to the digital architectures in the cities of light to keep all in the range of freedom. The first constitutional governance opens the gates to the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses, and the rest of the occupations in freedom. This is the systemic discrimination against the worst excesses of the occupational chaos of the era that was on the raw money foundation. When the mono-denomination of wealth money was in circulation, the non-governance of the foundation money law set the full grey governments up, always with military lions growling at one another and always fighting over the spoils of a lamb, to give favour to the capitalist unlimited excesses and to be as primitively strong as possible. Artificial intelligence was militarized in both forms of Martian Heights-ruled nation, the dictatorships and the duopolies. There were black carpets rolled out between the full grey governments and the CEOs of death. Now, humanity having distanced itself from the past, holding the head and home medallion high from atop the state capital's ROC top, another patriot is solid with the one divide, granting the deep FML governing state the available light to see into the digital economy in democracy's favour. The reality in the world of full grey smoke and mirrors and clashing and competing military lions is the gatekeeping for upper-class business. Accountability by the SAL's encoded medallion improves our respective COC national gatekeeping selections. Now the competition is taken out of militarism. Facing our respective FML fire gives rise to first constitutional governance for freedom, and only freedom, in vertical international parallel. The institutional evolution of two orders of constitutional governance promotes and secures the suite of necessarily capitalist LTD institutions and businesses, and the rest of the occupations lettered as freedom, and closes the gates on the 5 outmoded and unnecessary forms. Two orders of constitutional governance drive the evolution out of competitive international military madness. This is because the two orders of constitutional governance and grey government in operative adjacency negate the need to respond politically, nationally or internationally, with full grey national leaders and from the terminuses of the 100% man-made laws. Each nation scored in city and town with the FML fires in vertical international parallel gives rise to the universal structure and so three sovereigns' constitutional health. At the apex of Martian Heights rule, there was no love for country in giving favour to one or another party of an obscenely full grey government. The gates of the 5 excesses were by them kept open. Destructive energies, the extreme free money and fictitious debt creator banking, the arms manufacturing in competitive international military madness, trafficking, and Martian Heights priced houses and housing have evolved to more optimal forms. Whereas in the previous era, the full grey governments kept one another in absolute difference to one another, on the arrival of the Apex West technologies, there is finally a global recognition of the 3 shared constitutional laws. 2 orders of capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economic governance rise thus in the city centres and at cooperative security centres. The separation of constitutional and grey government is the achievement of the adult human form, the stable and economically just universal structure, and the end of the wild adolescence of full grey government. 2 orders of FML competent and militarily cooperative governance mark our maturation out of dependence on full grey government. The one divide wraps the earth, shutting down the no longer necessary capitalist unlimited excesses to the tombs of fear for all times. Achieving constitutionally interested governance, foundational efficiency emerges up and down the 3 and national class ruling structure where there was mono-denomination of wealth money gridlock before. Keeping one another accountable to the minimal and maximal privacy designations, everyone in the global village is within the capitalist LTD Olympic spirit-infused economy. The state of absolute economic privacy that fostered the 5 capitalist extremes is buried with the raw money foundation. The constitutional law amenable intel-friendly digital currencies have replaced the mono-denomination of wealth money. It is Apex West technology that enables the transformation of the economic excesses of the previous era into non-necessities that are no longer even possibilities. The first governing defence of the constitutional laws is innate, with patriotic duty and citizen freedom uniting into the one divide and prevailing into the 333 capitalist LTD economy. The Apex West technologies altogether bring an opportunity to the good life in the 3 fields to all men and sudden death to the old excesses of the fully grey governed reality gone by. A quick rebirth of occupational forms ensues, with the phoenixes and tigers gaining international repute as the suite of necessarily capitalist institutions and businesses. The very structure of full grey government was fated to trap the nations and the deeper, with time, within the arms and dark brain race, when compared to the cooperative and competitive faculties of the 2 orders of constitutional government and the utility of grey government in the ministries. Where there is full grey government, a nation is primitive. The full grey government compass, pointing with capitalist extremism, must not continue to mislead us. First constitutional governance is an era-elevating achievement. Entering a city of light, its 3 fields compass displays the proportion of occupational fields silver, gold, and blue. Adorning these roadside emblems of constitutional health are the pan-partisan replacements to the old excesses, the occupationally gated phoenixes and tigers. There is no need to wallow in full grey governance for the planet-threatening capitalist unlimited excesses they primitively keep as necessary evils. Dispense then with the illusions of the neutrality of money and a nation's standardless independence. Abandon now any closed-minded insistence that full grey governments must keep the world's nations in a primitive lockstep of competitive international military madness. Take a home medallion to set the constitutional in VIP and grey governments in the sundry ministries apart. The international crises are solved city of light by city of light with gold and digital coins in non-overlapping complementarity. The unwritten law of limitless accumulation is a law that can only be superseded on recognizing the need for an earthen range of inequality, the need to balance westernization with the eastbound Paradise Corporation, and the need to call out the no longer necessary evils and call in their replacements. On the 5 defunct and extinct full grey government contingent capitalist unlimited excesses known as the occupations of death. Every 3G head and home medallion is solid with the FML fire to create 2 true patriotic orders of national security that elevate the Star and H1 to 24 tier appraise home tigers and the energy and military phoenixes. Governance of the one divide removes incentive and thus the ghosts of extinction, as all bets were off, from the full grey government contingent capitalist unlimited economic extremes of death, and the 5 unadvanceables of the dark brain that can never incorporate again. Destructive energy fascists can no longer be economically active because bribes cannot be given or received through the highways, capways and taxways that are constitutionally developed into the one divide skies. The capways are the conduits for us to pay our oil and nuclear plus energy bills and costs. Extreme free money and debt creation can no longer be economically active on behalf of a Martian Heights escaping class and is replaced by the earthen range of inequality securing COC national stars. The capital of love, beauty's pace, COC star to ICS core and back in order that the paradises fledge and gain markets and backlands. COC nations of fewer cities have cities of light nonetheless, gaining equal national security density with the others by virtue of their respective COC stars that generate the same gold and electronic coins, and thus the one divide elevated freedom mountain ranges. The arms manufacturers of the capitalist LTD era are kept as minimal privacy capitalist LTD businesses, as they are paid IFDC money through the tax and capways, and their CEOs and employees their income accordant tiers H1 to 24, to sell their equipment and weapons to national security forces at Cooperative Security Heights. These 3 sovereigns' mission supportive businesses are rewarded with this sole source of income. A world of nations, of cities of light, reflect the grandeur of 2 orders of national security, and reflect poorly upon the old and discontinued competitive international military madness. C1 taxways are the conduits for private H1 to 24 tier appraised homeowners to pay their tier proportionate taxes to charge the COC stars for 3 and national class rule maintenance. Thus the cities are settled and the first freedom of men is protected. Those who would inflate the housing to Martian Heights prices and who would thereby burden the masses within the nation with hyper-artificial debts are no longer as such economically operative. The AI king in every FML fire firmly closes the economic gates on every would-be trafficker, shielding their would-be victims, who, never persecuted, are not cut up alive for their organs, who, never kidnapped, are not condemned to be repeatedly raped. No way to safely pay for shark fins, bear or human organs. There's neither the economic desperation anyways. Would-be traffickers have no market, and with the ugly head of death, are permanently disinvited from the economy. Regardless of how persuasive and charismatic the old leaders were, there was no preventing the flowering of the cities, from Budapest to Prague and from Rangoon to Vientiane, with eyes that everywhere shoot intelligent light through to the SAL's checkpoints. Accountability being worthwhile because our survival and well-being depend on closing the gates on the old excesses and on reducing to a modernized size the old full grey governments. In the one divide, delete the occupations of overblown inequality and vast suffering, proving the worth of constitutionally interested governance, become a light to all COC nations.